Boom. There we go. We're live. And, we're not live, we're recording live. But, Ibrahim, we've been setting this up for a while, and I have spoke to you multiple times. You've been a big fan of what I'm doing with AI Journal, and I know I've spoke to you over WhatsApp and over email, and you've published some really cool articles, and really glad to finally. I think this is the first time I've seen you, like first time, and I want to see you in person, but this is the first time I've actually managed to get some time, and
Yes.
I messed up on the times before, but yeah, it's great to have you on, man. Really excited
Y-
to talk to you today.
Yeah, and same here as well. So I'm really excited to be here. I think we've been going back and forth on emails for a long time, and we've sort of shared ideas and thoughts about AI and deep
Yeah.
tech and where we are in the tech industry. And I think it's finally nice to sort of catch up one to one in person. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to and excited about the chat.
Yeah, man. And I really want to do another one with your colleagues as well. That'd be an exciting episode, like to see how, like, what different views we've got and how things happen. Because I've got a real open view on AI. On like, I really like the way scientists think or how people think in that way. And I know you've got a lot of research background that I want to look at with like white papers that you've done and research that you're doing and all these different topics that we were just mentioning. But it's always interesting to see because I always try and have the approach that with AI, it's not about always being right and wrong. It's just wondering why it is or what's leading to that situation or how things happen. And I mean, there's been lots of examples recently where even the biggest experts don't fully understand why situations happened, like with cybersecurity or with quantum computing, which is quite a big thing. So yeah, it's a big world to go into. It's a big one.
Yeah, I think there are things that obviously I know a lot about,
Yeah,
and those are my sweet spots. And then there's stuff like optical computing and quantum computing, which I know edges of, but
yeah,
we'll see how those things progress. Because right now they're all sort of conceptual and development stages; they're not in production. Whereas me, I like to focus on things, at least in work, which I can put into production sort of immediately. So I look for ideas and I look for work where I think I'm very good at taking ideas from one place that already are executed well and putting it into another place, which is what we're, for example, doing with Tom with self-driving. So we looked at infrared self-driving. Right now, the kind of two mainstays are LiDAR, ultrasonic sensors, and your normal computer vision RGB array. And we are the kind of the first organization, and we're working with Imperial scientists on this. Physicists from Imperial are part of the research council, where we said we're going to look at infrared self-driving. And initially there was a bit of hesitation in the team, but Amazon startup Zoox is doing it. They use
yeah. I heard
infrared.
about that.
And then when you look at actually, well, infrared has been used in defense for so many years, it's proven tech. It has a higher range. It has a range of about 1 kilometer, depending on what array you use. It works really well in low light conditions. Yeah, right. So if there's fog or there's rain, your normal camera sensors won't really capture that much,
Yeah,
but infrared will. So why not use something that has been used in the defense industry for the last 60 years and is proven,
yeah.
and put that in mainstream? And why try and reinvent the wheel with different types of sensor arrays when you can actually use something that's good? So it's not exactly inventing something new. It's just seeing what's been working in another area and bringing it into another field which has not been executed. And I think a lot of my science research background, my two ventures, are really in many ways that we've looked at things that exist that haven't necessarily been implemented,
Mm.
and just finding pathways to implement that and bring and make people's lives incrementally better.
Yeah, I love it. It's a big thing, Ibrahim, like how sometimes we just pass over what already exists. And there's a lot of like wealthy investors and entrepreneurs that say you don't need to change that much. Like people have just really missed big gray spots where they just haven't got the right use case in technology or with people, they haven't had the right kind of emotion or story to tell, whatever, and it's already existing. It's a business model that can work and just it hasn't had the right critical thinkers or the right strategy or the right implementation to make it a proper viable solution. Which, like you said, we're seeing in autonomous vehicles, right? Like people are trying things that have existed for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, LiDAR is basically a type of radar, effectively, and then normal RGB is what your human vision is. But we all know, if you go to your driving test, they'll tell you when it's foggy or it's raining, you have to keep more of a distance from the car in front of you because your own vision doesn't work that well, right?
Yeah,
You can't see that far ahead in low light conditions, so that's why you're supposed to be safer. And then why would you put that same technology on a car rather than use infrared, which is going to be able to see farther, better.
Yeah.
We also believe it's going to be lower latency because the amount of information coming in is lower on infrared than what would be for RGB array or normal camera sensor. So that
Yeah.
would reduce latency as well because the bandwidth is lower. So, and it's been, everything from an F-35 to an F-22 has infrared systems. So why wouldn't you use something that already exists? And yeah, I think that's it. I think sometimes you can try and do something very complicated, but there's just an easier solution, a more
Yeah.
practical solution. And with both the kind of ventures that I've founded, we've been very pragmatic, realistic, and said, okay, we're not going to try and create something huge, but we can make people's lives 5-10% better in small ways, which really add up. And that's kind of what we're doing, even with the races. So this whole idea of predictive medicine and longevity tech, and there's a lot of tech now. You can go into a booth where they do a full body scan and they tell you your biological age and they'll give you the right supplements and all of this.
Yeah.
But the precursor to all diseases is stress. It's chronic stress. Cigna Health has this interesting statistics. It costs the NHS 11 billion a year. That's a lot of money. 6.2% of outpatients and I think it's A&E visits as well are related to chronic stress. So people just come in because they're stressed and they're burnout. What's causing it? It's work. So what are the mechanisms and pathways at work that you can predict, you can use, and you can try and improve people's lives a little bit better? So we have this thing, for example, we're looking at how you type on a computer. That's been independently verified by ETH Zurich, that research, and ETH Zurich have published a paper which says typing patterns are a better predictor of stress levels than heart rate monitors. So this is more accurate, our technology, than even your Apple Watch in some cases. And it's stress. So how do you do that? Well, if I'm noticing you're working on a computer and you've downloaded white matter and you're a little bit stressed, it will tell you, do a 5-minute breathing exercise. And
Yeah.
that just lowers your blood cortisol levels immediately. So instead of waiting 6 months when you're completely burned down and you turn up to an A&E, you stop it in its track right when it's happening, right?
Yeah.
And that's the best form of predictive medicine. You don't need all these labs and supplements. I mean, they're all great, but we're stopping it at the source because people spend most of the time working. And if you
Yeah.
can sort of help people there at the source just a little bit,
Yeah.
integrated into their life without an external hard point like an Apple Watch or something. It's built into your computer. We're looking at existing digital biometrics, how you type, how you use the mouse, stuff like that, your
Yeah.
computer usage, and we're picking up these tiny signals. And we're saying, okay, you're a little bit stressed, or you've been sitting on a computer for 20 minutes. You need to look away from the screen for 20 seconds. Well, that's occupational health guidelines in the UK. So again, I'm not inventing something new. I've just implemented something that the UK government is telling you to do. And if you go into workplace training tells you to do, but you don't remember it in the moment while you're working on an Excel spreadsheet or a
Yeah.
Python
Very
Jupyter
true.
notebook or writing an LLM model or whatever. And white matter will just give you that little bit, oh, you've been staring at the screen for 20 minutes, just look away. You've been sitting
Yeah.
for an hour, get up and walk for 5 minutes. And it's so simple. You think, it's not this sort of very hi-fi tech. It's
Right.
just these simple little things that make people's lives incrementally better. But Harvard Health says, for example, like we become so sedentary because we're working on a computer all the time. That leads to lower back problems, that leads to obesity. And if you can help people a little bit during their workday, remind them just to get up and take a 5-minute walk every hour. We've done our job. We've lessened the burden on the NHS. We've helped people live healthier, longer lives.
Yeah.
We've helped them become more productive because if they're really stressed, chronically stressed, they're not going to be very productive. So we're helping the employer, we're helping the employee, we're helping the National Health Service in the UK, around the world. And we're finding these ways to make things incrementally a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, that's really that's a lot to take in. It's really exciting what you're doing. Do you have like a preference to what wearables you use? Like the Apple Watch is getting a lot of attention because they're planning. I mean, I think Apple's kind of lost their edge at the moment with what they're building, but they're planning to build in vision sensor and cameras into their Apple Watches to try and understand what's around them. And I think I only read the headlines very briefly and like a quick summary, but like how it's building in for better health wear, better understanding. But a lot of fitness people I know that are very into their fitness, like high performance athletes or very very big gym goers and people that are fit, like they match the profile of being fit in good health. They wear a lot of like Fitbits and stuff, and it's crazy how much that kind of shares all that data back and all that information, similar to your cues at a desk to like get up and take a walk. And because I think I need to get one, and those aura rings as well. Those aura rings are what people, and it's really weird when I see the trend that people who are really in shape, using or in good health, are using those things. It's I feel like the other devices are more like a marketing plan, a marketing at me rather than actually helping me. But it's crazy the amount of information you can get on like your biometric data, your health, what you do, where you should walk, how much you should exercise, how many steps, what's your sleep rate like, because sleep's like one of the biggest things people say if you're weight building or you're trying to get fit. Like sleep's just as important as diet, and it's just as important as 3, 4, 5 days a week training. So it's fascinating, like all these different ways to measure your performance or measure your body.
Yeah. So our vision is to build the world's largest database of digital biometrics in the world. That's the vision of the company.
That's a great vision.
We are also, for example, like, you have these annoying captchas,
Mm.
right? So you have to click on these traffic lights, or, you get this sort of finger pointing one side, which is a Microsoft thing where you have to move the sort of object to the same direction as it. And it also sort of looks at cognitive patterns of a human and what bots can't really copy or mimic as easily and do it. Or you have the reCAPTCHA thing, which Cloudflare has, which is Cloudflare's turnstile alternative, which is what they're saying is you just press a button.
Oh, well, like when you go onto a website and it basically says that you're going through,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
for real.
Cloudflare will look at multiple different things. They have lots of signals that all you need to do is just press a tick mark, and Cloudflare does the captcha thing. So Cloudflare is by far the smoothest experience compared to, let's say, the Microsoft or the Google alternatives.
Yeah,
We've come
we,
up with something slightly different. We say you draw a triangle on the screen, so you connect three dots and draw a triangle. Everybody will draw a triangle differently, and every time you draw a triangle, no two triangles will be the same. Right?
that's crazy. I can picture it. Like, do you go right? Do you go left? Do you start on the bottom? Do you start on the top? Yeah,
Yeah. So we are saying, okay, you just draw a triangle, and that's your captcha. And
yeah.
that's what we've built. And that is, when I sort of first came up with the idea and we discussed it with the team, and they all loved it, like, that's really easy. But the treasure trove of information that little triangle has is incredible. So one of our founding members is Cambridge Neuroscience. And what we've been looking at is saying, okay, well, let's say you're in end of life dementia or Alzheimer's care. How are the medications working? How do you test it? Can you do it without being intrusive? And can you say, okay, just draw a triangle on the screen and we can tell whether the medications are working, or end of life care is working, or your dementia or Alzheimer's is stable? It's incredible. We're finding new ways to make people's lives better in healthcare as well as sort of normal life. So this captcha thing is going to be used everywhere. And the
Yeah.
amount of biometric information we're going to be able to get, and we're looking, through one of our founders, to get a 20-year MOU with Oxford University and give this data to researchers to pour through and find newer patterns to make people's lives better. And this is the power of biometrics. I think biometrics hasn't necessarily been exploited as much as it should have been. And it's been exploited in sort of ways that are not necessarily conducive. So there's gait detection. So everybody's walking is slightly different. So the way you will walk is slightly different to me. So even if you're wearing, let's say, a hoodie and you've got a face mask, a COVID face mask, and big sunglasses, if you're jaywalking in China, they'll figure out it's you because of the way you walk. Because
Yeah,
everybody,
that's
that's
crazy. That is crazy to figure like all that human behavior kind of stuff, like the patterns of what you do and everything.
Yeah, so basically everybody will walk slightly differently, and you can figure that out. And that's your unique fingerprint. Your walking style is unique to you. There are these tiny signals that can be picked up. I think to catch jaywalking, well, I'm not sure if that's necessarily the best thing, but using that to make end of life care better is probably a better use of that technology, biometric technology, and that's what our aim is. Our aim is to make people's lives incrementally better, using biometrics and these tiny signals from the body. And I think we're sort of doing really well. We've now just released two products, Trustmark and White Matter, and we're coming up with other products as well.
Yeah.
And biometrics has not been used in the way that it should have been in the workplace. I mean, what White Matter is, Apple and Microsoft should have done it a long time ago. And
Yeah.
they just really missed out because, they own the operating systems. They know who's typing what. It's
Yeah.
very easy for them to release this technology.
How long ago should they have done it? Or how long ago could they have done it, do you reckon?
They could have done it. The first paper on this came out in 2014, where some scientists, they used touch actuators touch capacitors on a keyboard and say they can figure out people are stressed based on how they type, so they will ham this keyboard more when when they're stressed, and they can figure that out. I started working on it in 2015 with the head of neuroscience at Harvard, Jeff Lichman. I went to him with the idea, thing I think I can do a little bit better. We're looking at other small things. For example, when you're tired, you make more mistakes.
Yeah.
And if you make more mistakes, you press the backspace and the delete key more often when you're typing. And I can clock that.
That's crazy. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. I mean, I make a lot of I can't. I really struggle if I have less than 7 hours sleep. Like I can do it on 5 hours, 6 hours, but that following night, Ibrahim, I'm sleeping for like 9 hours. Like
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
body.
you have sleep debt. You pick up sleep debt. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're picking up those signals and we'll tell you you're really stressed, for example, right?
yeah,
And or you're really tired. And we're clocking all of that while you're working on a computer. Microsoft has been sitting on this, well, they own the operating system, so they know exactly what's going on. So does Apple, and Apple is end-to-end software, hardware, all integrated. So they could have done it a long time ago. I think it's just possibly not having that, just possibly not having that kind of, maybe that mindset for biometrics just came out after the Apple Watch, because the idea of wearables, the idea of personalized medicine, the idea that I should be looking after my health and monitoring my health on a daily basis
yeah,
and trying to predictively improve my health and track it. That possibly came out with the Apple Watch. I mean, there are other stuff before, but Apple really made it big. And there was like Fitbit and there's Whoop and there's lots of other stuff now. But
yeah. Commercialized it.
Apple really kind of made it big, and they could have easily done what we're doing.
Yeah.
They just didn't.
It's bizarre. Sometimes people have the resources to do things, but they don't want to do it. Or they don't want to attack. And I think wearables is a big thing. Like I've got they're upstairs, but I've got a pair of Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and I think they're brilliant. Like I really think that kind of technology is the future for all sorts of things outside of healthcare as well. But I mean, one of the big things that that stuck with me. I don't know. It's not necessarily one of the big things they showed, but like using augmented reality, Ibrahim, for showing where someone, if they're having a heart attack or having some sort of episode where they go into a respiratory problem. I don't know this kind of, I don't know the medical industry well. I know some brilliant people in it, but it's not one of my strengths. But how when they were happening, they'd be able to track it and lead you to like a CPR unit and also bring up an emergency dial so it could register it in your frames. And I was like, if that's a family or a colleague and you've got them on, and say your partner, family, friend, whatever, collapses right next to you, like surely your response time is going to be miles higher because you're panicking as a person. You're thinking, oh my God. And the computer stays very still and very calm. All of a sudden, it's ringing emergency services, showing the problem, and it's kind of briefing. This is I'm not saying this is what happens at the moment, but this is one of the theories that someone was showing, and I was like, wow! And I can really glasses already. Everyone, a lot of people wear them for either for visual cues, like for seeing and eyesight, or for sun protection, or just simply because they like to wear them. Like some of my favorite comedians. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think AR and VR is probably going to be really big. It's been used in hospitals, in during surgeries, just to show sort
Yeah,
of statistics and metrics to people who are operating. It's used in defense tech. Obviously, Microsoft has, I think, a 22 billion contract with the U.S. Defense Department. Even though I think they kind of officially wrapped up the HoloLens program, but I think they have a $22 billion contract with the U.S. Defense. And for a while, I think it was being rolled out to surgeons as well. So it's definitely going to be used in some way or form.
yeah,
And I think it's really important technology, and it's really important work that is going to become more and more integrated into our daily lives. I can see, Google Lens didn't work when it came out, and Apple's whatever Vision Pro is obviously stuttering a little bit because it's heavy
it's
and it's
terrible.
clunky, and Microsoft HoloLens didn't as well. But these things go in circles, so really, it's just a matter of time when they become mainstream, and the people who will crack it are not people who are just throwing money at it, like you're saying that Apple is trying to put in cameras and sensors and stuff. I mean, they're just trying to miniaturize the iPhone even more. Really, you want pockets of specialized information gathering and displaying capabilities. So an iPhone, an Apple Watch, yes, you can check your text messages, but that's really not what an Apple Watch is for. It's a healthcare tool. And if you try and do everything all at the same time, you're not going to be able to do anything at all. Same thing with these kind of AR VR tools. Those AR VR tools are going to be used in specialized use cases like defense or healthcare, or possibly if you're traveling and you're at the Tower of Pisa, whatever it is in Italy, and you've got your Meta Ray-Ban glasses and it's telling you a little bit of a history of it, and you can just scroll through it and see, oh, you're speaking to, I don't know, your family, oh, this was built in this year and that year and this, and that kind of stuff, really.
Yeah.
You always start with the use case and you work back to the technology, right?
Yeah.
So our job was, okay, people work 8 hours a day at a minimum, most people, right? 1 billion people use a computer every day, okay?
Yeah.
That's our touch point with the consumer. And then what are we doing as a company to improve health there as well as productivity? So the employer, if you want to be in a sort of very capitalist economy, the employer just cares about productivity.
Yeah.
The employee, and I think everybody's really selfish, the employee cares about the health and well-being, and the NHS cares about their bill.
Yeah.
So we're solving three problems at the same time. We're helping employers. Employees are going to be more productive the more relaxed they are.
Yeah.
Employees are going to be healthier, and NHS is going to get less outpatients, 11 billion pounds a year, whatever. And we're doing all three of that just by very, in some cases I would say it's very simple technology. There's nothing really very complex. It sounds very complex. Words are getting thrown around about white matter like it's brain computer interface, because effectively it's one organism interacting with the machine, and we're figuring out what's going on. But we're not drilling holes into your brain like Neuralink are. All we're simply doing is saying, okay, well, you're a little bit stressed. You need to take a 5-minute break, really. And you're tired a little bit. So maybe take a longer break and make sure you get up and stretch. And it's in some ways, it's very simple technology, but those incremental movements of something being integrated into your 9 to 5 workday
Yeah.
daily, and that practice will make your life incrementally better, and it will lower the healthcare burden, and that is really, really important. So I think we have to be sort of very we have to be very mindful of how these how how the tech is packaged and what the end use case is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of companies, sort of industrial scale companies like Google, they're very good at sort of high performance computing and rolling out AI, LLM models. But every once in a while, you get this thing that, there are these small specialized pockets of 2 or 3 people who can do things that bigger companies can't. Like DeepSeek came out from nowhere and they can train an LLM model for 6 million.
Yeah.
And now White Matter has come out from nowhere with a team of 4 or 5 people, and we are able to create technology that Apple and Microsoft didn't clock,
Yeah.
because they're worried about much bigger or more complex things. And yet, I think the impact it's going to have on the workplace is huge, and it's already happening. We're signing more partnerships. We're on the NVIDIA Inception program. We're speaking to multiple channels and multiple partners. And yeah, the same thing with the capture thing. It's very simple. Just draw a triangle.
Yeah.
Why didn't anybody else think of this? Why do all this traffic light stuff? I think people are not thinking in simpler ways. Sometimes we're making life much more complicated than it is.
Yeah. It needs to be. What's the NVIDIA Inception program like? What's that all about? Never come across it before.
So I think it's a specialized program for startups, and you apply and you get passed, and they help you with credits, they help you with VC funding. We're also sort of actively trying to speak to NVIDIA for more relationships, more partnerships, more rollouts, and it's quite nice for us to be on the NVIDIA Inception program. It gives us a lot of confidence knowing that we're working with sort of one of the bigger partners, and it's not just a cloud credit thing. They actually sort of do communicate with us, which is really good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, NVIDIA GTC's just happened, hasn't it? And it was I saw Rabbit was there and several other people, and they always come out with some kind of. They were actually one of the first ones I watched, Ibrahim, when I was just getting into the AI journal. Like I remember watching their GTC, and bear in mind I wasn't really exposed to this area before like 2020, and it was just fascinating to see what was being built and to see that you're partnering or in that inception program and to kind of get that buy-in almost. I mean, being on those programs, it's like being on Techstars or being in Y Combinator. It's a big sign to either investors, customers, partners, whatever, to say these guys are legit and what they're doing is something to keep an eye on. Like it's not just a theory.
Yeah. Yeah, I think yeah that it's a real privilege to be on the NVIDIA's Inception program, and I think when you're an ambitious startup and you're bootstrapping and you're resource constrained and you're working 16-hour days and you're really hamstrung, just having a big partner really helps.
Yeah,
Sort of in the process, and I think yeah, I think more and more companies should really be helping new startups like a Google should do this. It's not just cloud credit. Same thing with Microsoft. Same thing with Apple. Instead of just waiting for a company to get big enough to buy them out, if you see the technology sound, help them along the journey, and maybe they will make you your next $20 billion instead of just burning money. I mean, Apple tried to do the car thing, and I think that was just a money pit,
yeah,
and don't know how many billions of dollars they kind of spent on that, right? And most of these companies have had these programs like Google Lens and stuff, or Microsoft finally, I think, mothballed Skype, which cost them a huge amount of money.
yeah,
Instead of doing this, find ways to help startups that are making incredible new tech, and we're not the only one. There are hundreds of other startups who are making incredible new tech, and get on those. Help these companies right off the bat if you see the technology is sound.
yeah. It's a good way to look at it. I mean, the whole car thing with Apple is kind of bizarre. Like, what uh, with Meta, with Mark Zuckerberg, he was saying on Joe Rogan, like how Apple have just kind of lost their edge at the moment. They're not really performing like they used to. They're taking these kind of gambles, and they said they weren't developing the car, but then Elon Musk came out and said, well, they're hiring people from us, and the only people I train at Tesla are people that really know cars and really know manufacturing. He's like, I don't know what the hell they'd be doing if they were going to make an iPhone. Like, it didn't make any sense. He's like, if you ask me, they're trying to make a car, and it makes you think like how leadership can really change like what products they do. Like the Vision Pro, even that was, in my opinion, a massive flop. Like it didn't perform. People I know who had it. So I think you were saying mentioned it earlier as well. Like it was very heavy, it was very expensive, and the only real applications I heard of were watching like really high definition video if you're sat still and you can only watch it for so long because you've got a hot battery pack on your back, and it's like it's not like it doesn't sound like the most like innovative tech that they're producing anymore, and it does make you think like when big companies do that, like you're seeing it in the SaaS game as well, like Salesforce. I wonder how Salesforce and SaaS oriented companies will keep up with businesses like agentic that are focused fully on agentic and large language models, and using DeepSeek. I wouldn't say it's far off. Push back if you see it differently. Being able to build your own version of CRM, like that's what Notion's really chimed into. They can do it much cheaper. And you think like these big companies that had big budgets and big enterprise applications, I think it's going to change. I think there'll be plenty of companies with 5, 10 people that become £1 billion value companies because they can just do things very, very smartly and very, very quickly. So,
Yeah, I think also I think open source is going to play a big role
yeah.
in all of this. Um, and that's kind of what we did with Tom. So in 2024, me and Anthony, who's the ex-vice president of ARM, we came up with this idea that open source developers don't get paid. Can we create a business model around it?
Mm.
And we said, okay, we're going to create a cryptocurrency. We're going to pay developers in the cryptocurrency. We're going to go
I
to
remember you
everybody.
told me about that. It was awesome. Like, I remember seeing it. It was really cool to see. It was a really different approach, Ibrahim.
Yeah, and we were going to everybody from Grayscale to the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund to big institutional investors to companies that we want to work with and say, hold it as a liquid short-term asset, just like the way you hold Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We came up with this in April 2024, and that's when the company was registered. June 2024, Merit Systems started working on the same idea, and in January 2025, they raised 10 million from Andreessen Horowitz. So there are people copying us, in that space as well. But Tom is another thing that we're really proud of, and we were speaking to Mastercard on the crypto credentials program, and we were speaking to sort of multiple other partners. And what we were saying is, right, DeepSeek proves that open source is the way to go,
Yeah.
right?
Massively.
And can you create a financial model around open source, which basically means that it's a sustainable financial model
Mm.
for perplexity, right? And cryptocurrency is the way to do it. So any developer can commit code or want to commit code to the GitHub repository. If they pass all the tests
Mm.
and it has a business use case based on what we're doing, they're going to get passed, and they're going to get paid in a cryptocurrency. A company that's working with us, a large company, and we're working on it for self-driving. So let's say a large company like a Mercedes or a BMW or Audi that work with us, they can hold it as a short-term asset on their balance sheet. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for the developers, it's a win-win for the companies, and the mining mechanism is writing code, not burning huge amounts of electricity, right?
Yeah.
The mining mechanism is writing code. And that means you're not breaking the electric energy grid somewhere by mining Bitcoin, like
Yeah.
what it is. So again, it's a win-win-win kind of a thing. And I was actually surprised that Merit Systems copied us and they raised 10 million from Andreessen Horowitz, because initially when we started, we were not 100% sure how this business model will work. Theoretically, we know we had all the ticks, but it's actually quite flattering to see another company doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's always a good sign of flattery to see people doing something that you've learned and that you're seeing working. I mean, it's I have the view, like people ask me, and this, or not ask me, I was getting asked about it by when I was talking to Chris. We went to go see a comedian on Thursday last week, and we were just talking before we went in. And it was Shane Gillis's who we went to go see, and it was really interesting to hear like how he's seeing it, and like what he was kind of surprised that we were doing partnerships with other big newsletters and other big things, and it's really important to me. Like I really don't come into this to win or to have like a competition angle, and I guess it's like if some people obviously see this as competition for whatever reason and get a bit I don't know, anxious with us or don't want to talk to us or kind of palm us off. It doesn't really bother me. But I think I kind of take it like you're saying, Ibrahim, as a big sign that what we're doing is the right thing. It's it's a good way of building, and it's a good way of helping people. I mean, businesses are built on value. If you're not giving much value to people, you're probably not going to have a very good business, whatever business you're in. And it's not always monetary. It's not always got a monetary value to it, right? So it's good you're thinking about it that way to see what they're going to build and how you're building it, having that philosophy of open source. Because if you're not open source these days, I honestly question like how, or as a tech company, and you'll be able to speak to this more than I will, like how you're expecting to survive, because it's just what people want. Like why K-Fu Lee said it on Bloomberg, and he said like, well, why? He said Sam Altman must be, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says Sam Altman must be losing sleep, because how can you compete with such high pricing models and subscriptions when DeepSeek are just saying we'll give you all for free? It's like it's impossible. Like it's I'll take a slightly lower performing model, and like Llama's got it built into all their platforms from Instagram to WhatsApp to whatever, or soon to be into WhatsApp. I know they've got it in Instagram. You think how can you compete with that? I don't see how.
Yeah,
It's something people seriously need to think about.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And open source is definitely the way to go, and that's what we're kind of specializing in, and that's what we're kind of focusing on. So, yeah, I think given sort of given everything that's going on in the world today, open source is definitely going to be the way to go. I think also people need to use AI quite carefully and usefully, because AI models do hallucinate, and what we did with white matter and what we're doing with sort of I like to think through first principles. That doesn't mean I don't use AI in my work, but I take it as a suggestion, and I'll double check it across 3 platforms. If I get something from DeepSeek, I'll check it with Perplexity. If I get something from Perplexity, I'll check it with ChatGPT. And having this kind of mixed modeled approach cancels out the mistakes. I would also sort of recommend your viewers to be very careful. Like, don't just take, I'm doing a PhD in maths, it's fundamental mathematics. I'm not going to be using AI at all, because I think it'll corrupt my mind space. Because if it hallucinates and I've kind of started trusting it and I want to just take the answer on face value, I'm not getting value from my PhD, because even if I'm just using it as a learning tool to research papers and stuff, rather than actually doing the grunt work of doing, going to Google Scholar, researching things, going to the libraries, reading the books myself, making notes, trying to collate information, that kind of deep work is really important. Anything that is sort of breaking new ground, be it white matter, I started working on it in 2015.
Mm.
The first academic paper that came out that kind of independently verifies my work is in 2023 from ETH Zurich,
That was a
right?
wild. Yeah.
That's sort of almost, you know, it's a lot of grunt work, and it's kind of staring down a black tunnel and thinking, oh, am I doing the right thing? I know fundamentally what I'm saying is right. And then it takes a while before you get that kind of proof of confidence that somebody's done it in a lab setting and they're also agreeing with you. And then same thing with merit systems. So when you're working on this sort of fundamental, but the most positive thing for this for me, it verifies my thinking and it gives me a lot of confidence. And kind of when you're using AI tools, to sort of be very mindful. It's not going to replace just fundamentally good cognition
Yeah.
and just being able to think through things in first principles. And it's very important to be able to do that as a person, as an employee, as a business person, and not just think AI is going to take over and do everything. Yeah, AI is going to get a lot of things right. And you can always use 2 or 3 models to double check and triple check your work, which means if one has made a little bit mistake, another one doesn't. But it's not going to replace fundamentally deep work.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think, Ibrahim. I've got a question for you on this. But when I was at university, I was saying this over the weekend with one of my friends. Like, if we had one of them did a master's in maths and another one did a master's in something similar. So both very smart in that world. Maths not my thing whatsoever. I think I got a C at GCSE level, and that was about it. That was my which is ironic because now I love all the kind of stuff like having exposure to engineering. If I went back, I'd probably be really heavily invested in it. Like, well, how does this work? How does that work? I was just very slow to get that learning curiosity. But it does make me think like what it would be like going. I went to Nottingham Trent. What it'd be like going through those courses if I had a ChatGPT, a Perplexity Pro, a Claude, whatever by my side. And I kind of wonder, do you think it's good for students? And obviously, students are going to use it regardless, I think. But what's your view on like using tools, applications like that? And it might be something separate to large language models in a university setting, especially maybe compared from when they're just doing a basic undergrad degree to a master's to a PhD. Like you made a really good point about how it can like change your whole philosophy or thinking or like your way of reasoning almost. It can really change it.
Yeah, I would not. I would do the work independently, and then you can use it to verify or check your work, or do primary research or collate research. But the kind of mathematics that I'm working on, a ChatGPT would not be able to come up with that. It
That's
just
brilliant.
just would not, or ChatGPT would not have come up with a white matter product.
Yeah, they wouldn't have come up with that kind of thinking.
No, it's just not possible. And if you try and offload all your thinking onto these things, then you're at risk of corrupting your sort of deep work state.
Yeah,
And it's very important as an entrepreneur, as a student, as a professional, to make sure you have that fundamental. If you're a programmer, you should be able to do lists in Python yourself without necessarily relying on a large language model. Yes, it's just nice to have syntax. If you're coding in Python or C# or C or C++ or Java or SAS or whatever, the syntax is slightly different. And it's always annoying to learn new syntax for a new programming language. Like, you have to learn R from scratch. The syntax for R is slightly different. You have to learn C from scratch. The syntax for C is slightly different. You have to learn C++ from scratch. The syntax is slightly different. But the fundamentals of programming are the same. Object-oriented programming is the same across all languages. Creating a list or creating a function or creating a class is the same across all programming languages. So, but the syntax is slightly different, right?
yeah,
And then there are other things, so just having that kind of extra help to reduce the cognitive load in terms of, okay, the syntax here is slightly different. I can just look up the syntax, but you should be able to write the code yourself. You know what functions you're writing, what classes you're writing, what data structures you are doing, you know how to sort of create a SQL database if you need to, or a non-relational database like MongoDB. You know how to work your way around a JSON file. All of this kind of stuff you need to be able to do yourself.
mm,
AI can help, but don't rely on AI too much. Use it as an independent third party, something to make your life easier. And I would never say not use technology, because then why are we even programming? Let's go back to assembly language, or
yeah,
go back to binary zeros and ones. We're not doing that. We're using programming languages because it makes your life easier. And same thing with AI. It's just another step. It's just another way to make your life easier. But just remember, it's a stochastic parrot.
yeah.
And it will hallucinate, and it will make mistakes, and it can't replace your kind of fundamental deep work and deep state of thinking that you would do yourself.
Mm.
So just be very mindful and very careful of that.
Yeah, it's a really good point because it's and you've really changed my kind of view on it because I believe there's a time and place to use it. I think if you're someone that's trying to learn something and you just got a hobby or something, I think it's great for that kind of stuff. You know, it. Oh, is your recording still going? You said it stopped. You said you had a. Let me just check.
Yeah, I think it's going still.
Yeah, good. Okay, but what I was saying is, yeah, it's really changed my kind of thinking about like how we do that kind of stuff because the world of like deep fakes and stuff at the moment, Ibrahim, like that kind of stuff's really worrying and really scary. And you think like I've seen PhD applications and things, and with doctors and like legal, like real important stuff, and they've like dismissed a case because they can tell it's been AI generated. And it's crazy. It's like here you are, got people that have been in the industry like 15, 20 years or whatever the number was, and they're taking it to real live courts. And it's like you've AI generated this, and it's clear because you've missed this point. I can't remember the exact case, but people can look it up. And it's I think he was like barred from being a lawyer and stuff. Like it really had a massive impact because of like what it can do, which is crazy. And it's the same with deep fakes, like how you can change someone's behaviors or how you can change someone's like ideology, like you're saying. It's
And
really scary.
this is quite scary. This is why I'm not a big proponent of. I mean, I'm a proponent of AI in terms of helping people make lives better, but I'm not a proponent of it being commonplace in the workplace too much, or it becoming commonplace in academia or legal halls or whatever. The simple reason for this is, there was recently, I think, um, I got a call, I got an email on my inbox. Somebody called Simon Hottinger from Al Ghanim Capital or something like that. I don't remember exactly the details of the email, but they wanted to set up an investment call for Tom and stuff, and or speak about investment opportunities. So it's on Crunchbase. It's a fake profile. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I'm a qualified CISO from the EC Council. It's a deep fake. The whole thing is deep fake. And there's other profiles that I've seen that are deep fake. There are companies using deep fakes. There are companies using deep fakes as fake customers. There's a lot of nonsense going on. And it's quite common now to prop up kind of fake employees on LinkedIn. Sometimes you look at LinkedIn and you go, "Is this not a real person?" And this is so common now that at a governmental level they need to really crack down and ban this. It's
Yeah,
not good enough. There is deep fakes that I've come across. I don't know if I can even name some of them. I'll probably get sued if I do. But I'm seeing deep fakes on LinkedIn, on Crunchbase, on the org, where people are using deep fakes in public view, and I know who the people are. I know they're using a deep fake secretary to say this is my secretary. That's not a real person, just to
crazy.
prop their own image up.
Yeah,
I know this is happening right now as I speak to you, but you can't open your mouth because there might be legal implications, or you might be slandering someone because you don't know everything
yeah,
about what the situation is.
yeah.
But it's
Allegedly.
happening in plain view, and it's really scary for me. Like, I know, for example, firsthand somebody who uses a deep fake as a secretary, who's apparently an ex-Microsoft employee with a degree from University of somewhere,
Yeah,
um, and I know it's a deep fake. But I can't
yeah,
open my mouth because I might be slandering them, and there might be legal implications and stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
No,
know it's
but
a deep fake, and nobody would believe me it's a deep fake because unless you zoom in on the picture and you look at the ears, which are out of shape,
yeah,
right, and the hair, which just looks artificially generated, you know it's a deep fake, and the eyes are all wonky.
yeah,
It's not a real person. But if you looked at it on a LinkedIn profile,
yeah,
or if you looked at it on a website from a distance, you can't tell it's a deep fake.
yeah,
Till you really
yeah,
have that cybersecurity expertise, you're a qualified CISO from the EC Council. Like I know I've gone through proof point ransomware training. I'm doing cybersecurity technician CCT from the EC Council, as well as sort of multiple other certifications from Cisco and IBM and stuff in cybersecurity. And I'm training in human factors in cybersecurity. I'm a trainer for the UK cyber team. So I have the eye to spot this, and I will train people to spot this. But this is happening so much because everybody thinks if I cheat a little bit, I'm going to get a little bit ahead in life. But you're incrementally making society worse. And when it becomes commonplace in a place like LinkedIn, then you start losing trust in the ecosystem. You start
yeah.
losing trust in the ecosystem. So that becomes really important. That you actually start losing trust in the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's really. I want to touch on that in a sec, but that's really kind of worrying, Ibrahim, because you think like places like Crunchbase, I know with their API and their premium, I don't use it, but I've seen like the capabilities and I can imagine what it can do and powerful network, similar to LinkedIn, similar to the org. It's worrying if you're getting into those kind of systems, and I know it happens. Like I'm probably not the best person to spot out deep fakes. I mean, I see them come across from time to time on my feed, and it's almost like a quiz. I really enjoy them. It's like which one's fake, A, B, C, D, E, and you can always, to me, it's pretty commonplace to be able to spot because I know what I'm looking for quite quickly now. Because fortunately, I've got friends like you and other people that can, educate me on that. But for the average daily person, my friends and some of my friends, family, or people that just aren't in that world, they're just not gonna be able to spot that stuff, and it's very worrying.
And it erodes trust. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the Bybit hack is really scary.
Mm.
Right, the recent Bybit hack, 1.4 billion. I mean, El Salvador, they wanted to be this Bitcoin economy, and they've been Bitcoin mining for years, and they've built up this Bitcoin reserve. And
One sec. What happened with it? I don't know about that at the moment. What was the
so
whole
Bybit
case?
is a cryptocurrency exchange, and well, allegedly North Korean based Lazarus Group hacked them, and they stole 1.4 billion.
Wow, that's pretty
And they've
crazy.
basically got a higher Bitcoin reserve now than El Salvador, who've been investing in it for years. Right, it's a heist. And it's in public view, and because of the nature of Bitcoin, it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do about it,
Yeah,
right? So it's basically we are stealing publicly, and there's nothing you can do about it. And there's political implications, there's geopolitical implications. Should you sanction a country like North Korea? Can the people eat? Are they stealing to feed it, their population? Should you do all these sanctions or not? Does it cripple the economy? Does it mean that people have to then start stealing? I don't know the implications of this. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a politician. I'm not going into the ethical, moral implications of the 1.4 billion hack. But imagine there was a 1.4 billion fraud. What would you do, right? For JP
shit.
Morgan or Morgan Stanley. That would never go. That
Mm.
person is going to be in jail. Look at what happened to Sam Altman Fried.
Yeah,
Just
bank.
straight. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, Sam Bankman-Fried. Sorry, Sam, not
yeah,
Sam Altman. um, um, sorry, yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried. Look at what happened to Sam Bankman-Fried. So fraud is seen as a abhorrent thing in society, and yet because of the nature of Bitcoin, it's just happening in plain view, and nobody's doing anything about it.
yeah,
And this kind of stuff is it's really interesting what decentralized finance means, what it's going to do, and how it's going to evolve, sort of going forward. We as I think as a society now need to be really careful, and law enforcement, fraud operators, independent validators, they need to be very, very careful, and you need these independent validation checks, KYC protocols, independent verifiable agents, even an AI agent that I'm downloading. If I see a new alternative to DeepSeek which says I can do really great stuff, and for every 100 prompts there's one prompt where it's going to inject something malicious
yeah,
into the answers, and for the 99 I will trust, and then I've just got something that's pretty horrible that can have implications in medicine or something because somebody's gone in and changed the inference results in the back end, or whatever it is. Could be many different things. We have to be very careful about these things. As a
yeah,
society, we need better cybersecurity, and cybersecurity is kind of one of my key areas. That's why we're working on this capture stuff from
yeah,
Erasis. So we've came up with this capture alternative, and we're working on other cybersecurity tooling and cybersecurity tools as well. And it's kind of is that how does that change society? What does that mean for society? We have to be all very careful. We have to be all very curious, and we need better safeguards. We need better protocols. We need more companies like Chainalysis. We need more companies like Code9 who are working on DNS blocking, and we're working with them. We need more sophisticated sort of tools for spotting deep fakes. Governments need to have a absolute no tolerance policy to deep fakes. AI generated content for a LinkedIn newsletter where somebody's generated something from ChatGPT, amended it, sort
yeah,
of finessed it, as long as they are a knowledge base in that domain and they can kind of verify with authority this is correct,
yeah,
that's okay, as far as I'm concerned, right? You can do that. If you're a lawyer and you're writing a legal article for, I don't know, even a Forbes or a Newsweek, and you've used AI to generate it and you've amended it and you've finessed it, and it's correct, that's okay. I can accept that.
yeah,
Um, but having a deepfake, I just can't accept. And this is what really pisses me off. There are so many deepfakes around. It really pisses me off that I'm seeing deepfakes on LinkedIn, because then I don't have any trust in the ecosystem anymore. Who am I speaking to when I apply for a job? Who am I speaking to when I'm networking for a business? Is that a real person? And even if I can spot it's a deepfake, why do I have to spend the time on LinkedIn trying to figure out what a deep fake is, what a real person is. That's not my job. I'm on LinkedIn to network for a business, and LinkedIn has become a sort of such a crucial tool for business now, right? I'm on LinkedIn to network for business. How is it possible that there is a deep fake?
Yeah.
And why? What is not my job to scan through and figure out what's a deep fake, what's not?
How did you get involved in all this, Ibrahim? Like, how did you start looking at cybersecurity? Because I know it's like through you're doing different things through, and there's a few questions I want to know about, like what you're thinking on cybersecurity with AI and what you just mentioned then. But like, you joined EC Council University as like a CISO.
Yeah.
How did you find? How did you get the passion for it? Like, where did it all start? Like the cybersecurity.
Actually, that's quite interesting. So my master's degree is in psychology.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of finishing my dissertation, moving on to my PhD in AI. And I've been very fascinated with the KGB. I've been very fascinated with MI5. I've been very fascinated with IDF, and they all have psychological tools that they use. And when you study psychology, you sort of start understanding the kind of different mechanisms that defense forces use around the world. My uncle is in the army, my cousin is in the army. They're both in the Indian army, so we have sort of some army background in my family as well.
Yeah, amazing.
And so I've always been sort of interested in military history, and even the Second World War and the Cold War after the Second World War, and all the mind tricks that different politicians are playing,
Yeah,
and
oh,
the show
fascinating.
watching and all of that. So, and I got hired by a company called GoBubble,
Okay.
which is run by an ex-police chief on safeguarding.
Yeah.
So we're looking at spam detection on Instagram chats and stuff, and also emotional AI. And I can't go into too much details about it because obviously there's non-confidentiality agreements and stuff,
Yeah.
and obviously it's quite sensitive work. But really, what we were looking at is how does how can you safeguard people better, and how can you detect spam on Instagram? And I used my psychology sort of knowledge to write code that sort of made the product incrementally better. And that's where I kind of go, oh, my psychology has cybersecurity implication, right? So I'm
Yeah.
looking for keyword markers, linguistic markers, to figure out if somebody's aggressive, for example. Again, I can't get into too much details about what the linguistic markers are, but I realize that this has, and when I start reading the papers, there's lots of academic papers on this. I'm not the only one thinking about it. It's been already done.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, given I've got this break, can I then use it in some way or form, I'm sort of other than that? And I said, okay, well, started training in cybersecurity. So I did some training courses. When we started working with Tom, again, using NLP, natural language processing, and Python scripts, we specialize in the blockchain space. So we were able to find a lot of DNS addresses which are malicious in the blockchain space. And we're still working with Quad9, or sort of trying to sort of finish that. We have too many false positives because a lot of Telegram stuff comes up as a malicious, but Quad9 says Telegram is non-malicious, but Pavel Durov is now under bail. So we'll leave that.
Big
We'll
laughs
leave
and words.
we'll leave that for now. But
Yeah.
so sort of working with that, I realized that I sort of got qualified as a CISO through the EC Council's grandfathering program, and now I'm doing the cybersecurity CCT qualification as well from the EC Council, and also I just recently finished Proofpoint sort of email ransomware training, which has got ICS2 credits, which is another sort of platform. So I got into the cybersecurity world because I was called in by a company to do some specialist work, and I realized that there's a sweet spot here. So what we're doing for the UK cyber team is looking at. So I specialize in looking at what happens in your brain the moment you fall for something, right?
Like a trick or a spam message or
Yeah,
something.
because effectively the entry point for every cybersecurity incident becomes a human, unless it's a DDoS attack or something, right?
Yeah.
If it's a phishing attack, you open that email. If it's ransomware, you downloaded the software. They need access through you in some way or form.
Yeah.
You have to be a
Yeah.
touch point as a human being. So IBM research says 95% of all data breaches are due to unintended human factors. 95%. So human factors then becomes a critical and the crucial and the defining link in the cybersecurity chain.
Yeah.
And then if you have got a background in psychology, you start using that and saying, okay, can I make that product of managing human risk slightly better? So
Yeah.
One example is Deepfake, a London design company. A financial controller was on a Zoom call with four very senior executives, including a CFO, and all four were deepfakes, and he gave out 25 million of company money.
I saw that. Yeah, yeah. It was
You saw that, right?
in Hong Kong, right? Was it?
It was a London-based design company, from what I remember.
Okay. I saw one that happened. It was similar value size, and it convinced him it was a CFO on the call and wired over like $25 million, and it was in Hong Kong. And obviously, it was just this massive fuck up where they didn't know how that money got released and how he fell for a deep fake video call. It was crazy. But yeah, similar stuff.
Yeah, so what we're looking at is what is that, you know, what happened there is deference to authority. That's the
Yeah.
psychological mechanism.
What, that he thought it was the boss asking him, so he had to make
Yeah,
the.
and the same thing, at Nuremberg trials, many Nazi guards were asked, why did you press the button on the gas chamber?
Yeah.
While my boss asked me to, my manager asked me to,
Yeah. That's fucking
right?
crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
That's deference to authority, obedience to authority. There's multiple psychology studies. There's one psychology study where there's actors behind a glass screen, and you as a participant you're being told to move a dial, and the more you move the dial, the more the other person gets electrocuted,
Mm.
right? Thankfully, they're actually not getting really electrocuted. They're just actors.
Hmm.
But do you move the dial ethically
Yeah.
to near fatal because some scientist on a white lab coat standing behind you is telling you to do it? And many
Yeah.
people did. Many
Yeah.
people did. And because a scientist is telling me to kill the other person, so I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know the moral implications because I've hijacked my brain to the scientist. I've deferred to authority because the scientist must know better than me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to listen to the scientist. And that's the psychological mechanism, is deference to authority. And if you can go in, so we're working with the UK cyber team, and if you can go in and train the next generation of cybersecurity analysts when they go into organizations to say, these are the psychological mechanisms, is deferent to authority, is it trust? What
Yeah.
is the psychological mechanism that you're falling for? Then we need to start really thinking about, okay, well, if we do this, this is what it's going to kind of end up as.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of the work we're doing with the UK cyber team. SANS, which is kind of the main sort of organizer for the UK cyber team, they liked us on Twitter as well, a post about us working with the UK cyber team. So we're really proud of that. And we're really, really happy about that. And I think, that kind of special sweet spot between psychology and cybersecurity is what I kind of specialize in. Obviously, I've now got additional qualifications, additional training, and I'm continuing to train myself up in the cybersecurity world. And hopefully, we'll be releasing more cybersecurity products from Erasis as well. But it's become so crucial in today's world to know what cybersecurity is, know
Yeah. Yeah.
what everybody is becoming a victim to a smaller or larger extent of a cybersecurity incident. Every
Yeah.
time you have to check a deepfake profile on LinkedIn or Crunchbase or on the web, you are a victim of a cybersecurity incident without thinking about it. But really,
Yeah.
you are a victim of a cybersecurity incident. You're not being treated as a victim. It will have psychological implications. It might erode your trust in society. It might erode your trust in other people. It might erode your trust in online communications. And because we're living in such an online world where trust is the key currency, really, for a place like LinkedIn,
Massively.
yeah, and deepfakes are eroding that, and it's a really strange kind of dystopian Orwellian kind of world that it's coming to, and everybody needs to be really, really careful about this, and governments especially need to stamp this out. It
Yeah.
can't happen that North Korea steals 1.4 billion and everybody's just standing there going, "Oh yeah, we'll do something about it." Well, you're not doing anything about it. Get on
Yeah.
with it. We haven't recovered any of the 1.4 billion. They've recovered, I think, 24 million, but compared to 1.4 billion, 24 million isn't a lot. Get on
Yeah.
with it and do it and sort it out, because that restores confidence in the world.
Yeah.
In politicians, in social policy, in cybersecurity analysts, and in the ecosystem of decentralized finance. Because if blockchain is going to become big, which it is going to become, it's going to inevitably take over pretty much all of finance in some way or form, as well as healthcare, education.
Wow.
You know, smart contracts are going to be used for IoT devices, for car maintenance. So everybody's car is going to be on a blockchain somewhere, on a node, and your car's maintenance data is going to be on that. and you can't tamper with it. A mechanic can't tamper with it because it's going to go through an IoT device straight to the cloud, so you can't
Yeah.
really tamper with it.
Yes, you
So
can't you can't use like fob someone off and say we've done this work and X Y Z because it'll all be monitored and all be like double checked and everything. Is that what you're saying?
exactly, and that's happening. I mean, I hear a lot of people go have that kind of problem when they go to a mechanic. It should have been a
Yeah.
£200 job, and it ended up becoming a £2,000 job because they wanted to make more money off you. So, um, this kind of stuff is really really important, and blockchain is a crucial thing in creating and maintaining trust in the ecosystem. But that only works if you um, if you can stamp out, a 1.4 billion fraud, for example.
Huh. Yeah. So how do you I've got loads of questions about that kind of stuff. How do you see like cybersecurity changing with quantum, with Bitcoin, with or not with Bitcoin, but with cryptocurrency? And you might have different answers for each one, but I constantly see how quantum is going to change or has a big risk, and it was talked a lot about. I went to the quantum computing summit in London last year, and quickly before that, I went to, or after that, before that, I went to Splunk's conference just as they announced their acquisition from by Cisco, and it was a conversation that was coming up, and it still seems a conversation that's coming up nearly 9 months later, but I haven't really seen anything about it, and I don't know. I'm not saying that you will have all the answers, but like, what's your general opinion on things like quantum and cryptocurrency changing cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I think with quantum, I mean, I think there's some directive that has come out by 2035. Every kind of cryptography and encryption algorithm needs to be quantum compliant or something, or quantum unbreakable, whatever. I think one of the things I've learned as an entrepreneur, as an academic, as a employee as well, working for different companies, you always stick to your sweet spot, and you don't never really venture out of stuff you don't know, because you become a risk of sounding a fool. Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
Quantum is not something I know,
yeah,
so I'm going to be out of turn. But I know the general principle of what quantum computing is, which is it's going to improve the speed of processing by a leap that is unimaginable for us in current computing standards. So what that means is, if you're trying to break a code, if that would have taken a normal computer 200 years to do, a quantum computer can do it in 5 seconds, or in theories. That's the theoretical implication of quantum computing, which basically means the modern encryption algorithms are all obsolete, and then those need to be changed to be quantum compliant at a certain point in the future. I don't know if quantum computing is ever going to become stable and work in the long term and become a stable platform. That's also up in the air. I don't know if anybody talks about it, but I know Google have invested in it. I know IBM have invested in it. I know MIT is working on it. I know many companies are working on it, and they all seem very confident. And there were people who are much smarter than me, who are working on it. Um, if they think quantum computing is going to become a reality by 2035, good for them. We're not that interested in quantum computing. We're more interested in making our health better in the workplace,
I love it.
slightly, incrementally, three
Yeah,
three to 5%, and we hope to reduce the burden on the NHS by just doing that 3 to 5% in the workplace. So we have very clear targets and goals. Because of what biometrics is, it gives us a unique kind of place in the industry. Can a quantum computer mimic a human perfectly?
yeah,
Because right now we believe bots can, and that's why our captures are more efficient than the current systems. It's easier, but they're also more efficient, and they're going to work better
yeah.
because of biometrics, digital biometrics. Can a quantum computer mimic human patterns for drawing a triangle so perfectly that a bot can't using AI? I don't know, really, is the question, or is the answer to that. And we'll have to wait and find out in the near future how that turns out. Right now, we're very happy and confident with what we've got as products,
Yeah.
and we're sticking to it. But in the future, we might start looking at that when that becomes a reality. But really, I don't see quantum computing making a change in the next 10 years. It's not going to become a reality in the next 10 years. What is more likely to become a reality in the next 10 years is AI agents taking over your computer and being able to order everything from your Amazon shopping, to book your travel, to doing your homework. That's a reality that we need to be worried about. So making AI agents verifiable, checking that AI agents don't hallucinate too much, finding other ways to make sure you can guardrail AI agents, maybe shrink the size of the models and make them more specialized for use cases.
Yeah.
Understanding, so educating people that AI is a stochastic parrot, which basically means that it is prone to making mistakes and it will at some point make mistakes, including giving false information. So if you've done your homework or your master's thesis using AI and it's quoted an author and a paper that doesn't exist in reality, and you were caught out and you didn't get your pass mark, don't blame AI for that.
Yeah.
That's your problem. You should have known that AI hallucinates, which basically means it can come up with completely inaccurate and false information.
Yeah.
And it's your job to verify all of this and not just blindly believe what you're seeing from AI. And that also goes from humans. Don't believe everything you listen, what politicians tell you, because a lot of it is complete nonsense and a lot of it is completely fake. Um, just having that kind of very clear understanding of what AI is and what AI can do for you. It's a tool, but use it as a tool to make your life a little bit better. But don't think it's not a sort of silver bullet that's gonna solve everything. And AI is going to come up with new proteins just tomorrow, and all the scientists are obsolete, and is going to cure all drugs. Yes, it's going to help scientists create better drugs. It's going to accelerate research and discovery in physics, in chemistry, in biology, and Google's DeepMind is doing fantastic work in that area, and I think other companies as well. I think Microsoft is also venturing out into it, and all kind of deep tech ventures are going to come out because they're going to use AI to compute, find new proteins. Scientists are going to use their own research ability along with what AI can do and combine it to make better drugs, better proteins, have better protein candidates. There's companies like Innovia.bio that are basically saying they can take a protein candidate and figure out, using I think 40 or 50 different machine learning models running concurrently, whether it's going to pass clinical trials and what is the probability it's going to pass clinical trials. So you can reject a lot of junk right at the earlier stages, so it doesn't get passed through the clinical trial stage. So you're
Yeah.
saving a lot of money and driving efficiency in the pharmaceutical industry as well. So there's a lot of stuff that is going to happen because of AI that is positive, but having that very clear guardrail that this is AI, it's not a
Yeah.
silver bullet. It is going to make mistakes. And you need people with deep expertise at every point of the AI chain to be able to harness the power of AI. That's really, really important for everybody to understand. Educators, employers, students, and not see, oh, AI changed everything. No, 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 no. I'm not gonna put a drug inside my body that is just being developed by AI and nobody's checked anything and passed it through a clinical trial. Just the way I'm probably going to be very hesitant of sitting on a Boeing plane again after all the F-37 problems. If I fly, I'll check if it's an Airbus or not.
Yeah, that's like me. That's exactly like me.
Like if I'm flying next time and it's a Boeing and not an Airbus, and it's
Yeah.
one of the newer Boeings, the 737 or whatever, I'm gonna be pretty scared because why are these planes rolling in the middle of the air?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So human efficiency, AI efficiency, all great. You at every point you will need great human beings with strong ethics, strong morals, strong technical capability to be able to harness the power of whatever is coming out, and AI will take over jobs. That's complete nonsense. This is just some people have given some credit to this or credence to this view that AI is going to take over and it's so powerful it can take over humanity and stuff. I give no credence to it at all because basically it means humans are even more important
Yeah.
because only a human can verify if the information that's coming out from an AI agent is true or not. So if anything, you need more humans to be able to, with deep expertise, to be able to look at what AI is doing and say this is correct, this is not. I'm going to take this bit. I'm not going to take this bit, and I know exactly what I'm doing because I've trained and developed that expertise over many many years.
Yeah.
That is I think really important. It's going to become even more important going forward. So I don't think anybody really should be worried about AI taking over your job.
Yeah.
Not
No.
even as a low-level developer. I don't think AI is going to even match a low-level developer because no company can right now sit and say, I'm going to use ChatGPT to write all my code base. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to pass all the tests. It's going to have more vulnerabilities to it. It might be slower than what a person can do. A 10x developer can do a lot better than what ChatGPT will ever be able to do.
Yeah. But surely it can learn from all the mistakes and think like, and I'm not saying it will because like, look, there's a lot of times where people think it'll take jobs, but it doesn't. Like, look at Henry Ford when he came out with the Ford car. There was, I forget the name of it. You can look it up. It's someone like that was extremely successful. Said it's nothing more than just a fad. Like, it won't exist. It will take people's jobs. Horse and cart is here to stay forever. Which obviously 100 years ago, I mean, it's just daft now. Like we use them in pretty much every aspect of life. And someone said a very similar thing, Ibrahim, about the internet. I forgot who it was that said in like 1997 there was a big headline ad in the New York Times or something saying fax is here to stay. The internet will never take off. No one will trust it. And I mean, look at everything it powers now. Like it's pretty hard to have a business and to have relationships without the internet. And I think it's a very similar wave to AI where you will be slower and left behind if you don't use it. But that's not to say it's not gonna or it will replace jobs and people will just have to upskill. Like more people now are employed at the moment, I think, than ever before in history or something. Or the high, like if you look at things on a graph, our way of living is like miles higher than 100 years ago. Miles higher
Yeah,
on all
yeah.
fronts, like knowledge, healthcare, income, all these different routes. And I think it's the same with AI. It will just be a proponent to the next level of success.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to make people's lives better. It's going to make it's going to drive more employment. I think also your worldview must be very positive. A sort of all the doom and gloom mongers on Twitter and even news and many news channels give credit to this. Oh, AI is taking over jobs and stuff, and people go on these morning sort of, you know, 10 o'clock coffee on whatever TV news channel discussing how AI is going to take over jobs and stuff. Really, I won't see a Jeffrey Hinton making that kind of probably kind of stray comment. Or Demis Hassabis making that kind of stray comment. These kind of stray comments come from people who have not even fringe understanding of the technology behind what's going on. You really want a Princeton economist to come and say, this is what I think AI is going to do for jobs, and these are the statistics, and these are the numbers, and these are the models that I've made that prove this or this otherwise. And I'll look at three economists' views and I'll form my own opinion, but I'm not going to look at somebody sitting on 10 o'clock morning coffee saying AI is going to take over all jobs and it's all doom and gloom and everybody's going to become homeless and jobless. Just complete nonsense. I think people should sort of be put on guardrails as well on the kind of impact it has on other people, because a lot of people see this kind of stuff and they panic.
Yeah,
And really,
make people depressed.
yeah, exactly. You don't want to be sitting there just about to graduate from LSE, Oxford, Cambridge, with a great degree in chemistry, biology, mathematics, politics, social science, whatever, and you think, "Oh, I'm not going to get a job because of AI."
Yeah.
You still get me a chartered accountant, and that qualification holds value. You can still be a qualified CISO from the EC Council, and that qualification holds value. You can still be a qualified actuary. You can still get a PhD in math. You can still get a PhD in engineering. You can still get a PhD in biology, and those qualifications will still hold in the job market, because nobody's going to say ChatGPT is taking over a PhD in biology, and therefore Novartis is not going to hire PhDs in biology to develop new drugs. That's just ridiculous. That's just not going to happen,
When
right?
you explain it like that, Ibrahim, you make a very good visual cue of like how just stupid it sounds. Like it's just
Yeah. That is just ridiculous. Automation always drives efficiency, but also I think what will happen is that people's lives are getting incrementally better in every way, because we're finding more and more ways to service people's needs. So look at White Matter now. We are a new company which is saying, based on how you type, how you use the mouse, how you use your computers, and the biometric signals we can get from that, we're going to make your life 2 to 3% better by telling you to take a water break every hour, get up and stretch, look away
yeah.
from the screen every 20 minutes, so you don't need to go to Specsavers, right?
Mm,
It's a product that didn't exist 10 years ago, and
yeah.
it's making your life incrementally better. That's the power of technology. It's just going to service people's needs better. Apple Watches didn't exist 20 years ago. If you go back, I don't know, 100 years, like 70% of the population was what, farmers or something. Not even 100 years ago, even
Yeah.
longer than that. I'm just sort of looking at the scale. So what did technology do? It means less people have to spend farming, and more
Yeah.
people have to do more, and people have a chance to do other things. So
Yeah.
that's the philosophy of AI as well. It basically means less people will have to write low level code, and they're able to look at sort of more higher level stuff, or they're able to refine code. So it's just going to technology is like any technology is a tool that amplifies human potential, which basically means there's more ways of doing things better. I think Archimedes famously said, "Give me a fulcrum long enough, and I can move the entire planet." And technology is that, from the light bulb that Edison did to ChatGPT, each
Yeah,
point of that, from the iPhone, every single thing, it just makes your life better.
it's crazy.
Before the
Yeah.
iPhone, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'll have to find a coffee shop, and we'll have to have a
Yeah.
recording studio, and we'll have to do all of this to have this call. And right now we can just do it online. So it's just made life incrementally better. And that's the power of any technology. And everybody should look at the world in a sort of very optimistic way and say, okay, new technology is coming. My life is going to be a bit better. So instead of working 8 hours a day, I can maybe work 4-day work weeks. Maybe I can work 6 hours a day. Maybe when I'm really tired after my lunch and I'm a little bit drowsy, I can use ChatGPT and use it to make my 45-minute work 15 minutes longer. It's just going to make
Yeah.
life a little bit easier and a little bit better for everybody. And that's how we should. That's how we should look at technology. We should be optimistic about technology. We should always see technology as an enabler and never replacing humans. And we should always look at technology as something that is going to make our lives better.
Yeah. A lot more flexibility, I think, Ibrahim. Like a lot more flexibility in your day to day, which is interesting. Mentioning that stat you were saying, I've got it here. In 1900, approximately 40 to 50% of the US workforce was employed in agriculture. A significant decrease from the 90 to 95% who were farmers at the time of independence. But get this. So by 1900, the share of the US workforce employed on farms had fallen to 40-50%. At the time of US independence from Britain, around 90 to 95% of the population were farmers. Today, less than 2% of the US workforce is employed in agriculture. Conversely, the share of workers employed in the service sector rose from 31% in 1900 to 78% just in 1999. So God knows what it is now. It's probably closer to 95% or something daft. And it's probably in that region somewhere, 90 to 95%. And I wonder what it will be like in another 5 years when we're having another conversation, Ibrahim.
Exactly. So I think that statistic is key, and I think that sums up what technology does. So you go from the 40-50% to 2%, and basically that 50%, that's reduction almost, 48%, whatever that reduction means. There's a Disneyland for kids can go to and play. It means there's iPhones where we can have a conversation. It means there's your Elizabeth line in London where you can go from East London to West London in a matter of minutes. It means there are physicists working at CERN trying to figure out the secrets of the cosmos. And it basically means it's freed up humans to do more, to do different things, and to pursue their interests. And that's it's always a positive journey. It's
Yeah,
technology is never a negative thing.
of course.
Of course, supplying nuclear bombs are, but those are again always leveraged by humans in some way or form, right? And if I would just say, if you removed all politicians from the world would be a much better place. I think. Make
Well said. Well said. Yeah.
give everybody a PhD in science or engineering, and I think everybody's going to do much better because you'll have less politicians. But the point is really that 50% to 2%, people's lives have become incrementally better. There's
Yeah.
more leisure. There's a Starbucks. There's a Costa. There's a Disneyland. There's better transportation system. There's Rolls Royce and GE jet engines, and there's Boeings and Airbuses to go from one place to another. Everything has become much better for everybody, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's all technology is ever going to do. I think it's never going to be a negative.
Yeah, well, I think there is a place for politicians in one aspect, but I do wish that they had more. Um, I think they are needed to a degree, but I wish they had more like applications, like more real world knowledge. And I think it's really hard. Like I see it with economic policy to bring people in that have no. I'm not saying all of them are like this, but there's plenty of examples from what I've seen where they don't have, or in science or whatever it might be. I mean, it's that funny photo. I don't know if you've seen it, Ibrahim, but it's like basically showing the Secretary of Health for Germany, UK, and somewhere else, and they're all in pictures caught off guard where they're well, they're overweight, they're smoking, and they've got an alcoholic beverage, and it's like those are not the people I want leading our healthcare policies and infrastructure. I want someone that works out 5 to 6 times a week, has done this, has done that, has joined the army, has whatever it is, but someone that has a clear sign that they are in shape and for that kind of movement. I think we really lack that in what we're doing, and probably in technology as well. I'm not too familiar with it, but I know it really stuck with me on thinking like, why have we not got the people who have the real experience in those policy position places?
Yeah.
And whether you call them a politician or whatever you call them, it baffles me. It really baffles me.
Yeah. No,
I
yeah,
saw
absolutely.
I saw what you said. I saw you shared something, Ibrahim, which I want to touch on because you were talking about it, and I kind of want to go back to what you're talking to at the start, what you're working on with autonomous vehicles, with vision. I have a whole thing of what's better. Is LiDAR better, or is there another way to look better? Like I know Teslas do it very differently to how other cars are doing it. They use LiDAR over sensitivity, and there was a thing with the YouTuber Mark Robber. You should watch it. You can watch clips of it, and they basically put up a wall that is you can drive through it, so it's safe to drive through. But it's basically like it's outside, and it's basically this big thing that they put up that see if a Tesla and I think like a Hyundai or a new car see if it spots it, and they've both got different vision systems on. The Tesla drives straight through it.
Oh,
The
yeah,
other
I've
car
seen it.
stops. And it's really fascinating to see. But what stuck with me on that is what you were saying earlier, especially the auto industry, is what Jensen Huang was saying, which is like as a problem become larger, the opportunity becomes larger, and like
Yeah.
it's not like we're ever going to stop. I thought it was fascinating that you
Yeah,
shared.
and I think also like, I mean, I don't have a Tesla, but I think Teslas do get bashed around a lot now. I think, okay, their systems are not better, but really give them credit for what they've been able to do, which is basically completely transform an industry from
Yeah.
scratch. That is a ridiculous amount of work when you think about it. You've just changed an entire industry from
Yeah,
scratch.
from manufacturing processes to customer behavior to everything, like how it
Everything.
transfers data. Yeah.
And for the amount of money Elon Musk did it with when he first started working on Tesla to where it is now, everybody's talking about EVs now. If they don't have one, that they'll get one in the future sooner or later, as if it's commonplace. Whereas, before Tesla, nobody really even thought about EVs as a serious proposition,
Yeah.
right? And you, so you pick up one little thing from Tesla, or this happened with the Tesla, or this happened with the Tesla, or the vision is not working, or the batteries are not working. Yes, those are all problems, and they probably need better manufacturing processes. They need better quality control. They need probably more or better engineers. Then they need to finesse things like an Apple has been able to do many times. With products like an iPhone or an Apple Watch, there are things that a Tesla can learn as a company, but that doesn't knock the tremendous amount of value that they've been able to generate and the amazing work that they've been able to do over many years, and completely change an industry from scratch. I mean, everybody talks about EVs or even electric bicycles or electric motorcycles like they're going to become commonplace. If they haven't, they will. That
Yeah.
didn't exist. That just didn't exist. Just change, if you think of your mind as an elastic band, almost, just the audacity of being able to think for a guy like Elon Musk, like, I'm going to create a space program from scratch and I'm going to make it work, and NASA is going to put people on the International Space Station using my rockets,
Yeah.
and I'm going to transform an entire industry with heavyweights like Ford and GM and BMW and Mercedes and Audi and Skoda and Toyota and Honda. I'm going to come in from nowhere with no experience of this industry, and I'm going to completely just change the entire industry. Just the audacity of thinking, the ability to think that big.
Yeah.
It's a very inspirational person. I think everybody can take a lot from him. Of course, there's other things that now everybody's bashing Elon Musk and his political this and did he do a Nazi salute or not. It's just complete nonsense. I think social media is just like people jumping up and down on Twitter, on
People
social
have lost their
media, saying
minds.
horrible
People
things.
have honestly lost their minds, and
Yeah.
like it makes no sense. Like if they look and I'm not like I'm not agreeing. I try and keep my head out of that space. But look, what he's achieved and what he's doing is incredible. And the moment he took like a political, and I don't even think he did it for politics. I think he just got sick of his contracts being denied, and like all these stories that are coming out from people like Andreessen Horowitz, like Mark Andreessen was talking about it to Musk, like what the administration were doing to them, and like they had the capability to go get the to go get the person stuck on the space station back, but they didn't want to do it, and all these things. I don't know how true they are, but like to put Nazi signs on Teslas and to do all these things which are just daft. Like when he went around Auschwitz and he's literally got and he went around with his Jewish friends. He's literally got a necklace that is of Jewish relevance. And the same people that seem to be burning the cars are the same people that push, environmental safety. It's like burning those cars, you're literally letting off God knows how many emissions into the environment, lithium, all these things that go into a car. I just don't understand it. I'm like,
Yeah.
people go mad. Like, I'm all for you having your voice and whether you like him or don't like him, but it's a really strange thing to be watching Ibrahim. Really.
Yeah, I think we have to all be very careful about what social movements and humans look like. Entire societies can get wrapped up in an idea that is false and that will get doomed. And we know through the Second World War experience how that happens. An entire society can completely get wrapped up in an idea and become enamored with it and start using that as a sort of a status quo, which is incorrect. And the same thing with what's happening in social media nowadays. People are just but I isolate Elon Musk into just an engineer, and I think as an engineer, his ability, his audacity of thinking, as well as his executional capability, is something that every engineer, everybody who's studying engineering, can aspire to. Making a rocket engine, I'm just take everything else from SpaceX out, and just the fact that he's been able to make these Raptor and Merlin engines, just the fact that he's been able to create a rocket engine from scratch, make it more efficient, and get and use his own rocket engines to go to space, to the International Space Station, and that's just
Catch them when they come back down.
yeah, that's a ridiculous amount of work, first of all.
Yeah.
And that's a ridiculous amount of just, again, the audacity of thought that I'm going to make a new engine. And making an engine is not exactly like easy. Making a new engine for anything, be it a car or a plane or plane engines, obviously notoriously difficult to make. That's why you just got GE and Rolls-Royce doing it. But even making a rocket engine, just oh, I'm going to be able to make a rocket engine. Just having that audacity of thought is amazing for any human being to have. It just
Yeah.
shows the power of human perseverance, grit, passion, dedication, going through failure after failure, 3 rocket launch failures, and then still saying, I'm still going to launch the 4th rocket. That kind of passion, dedication as an entrepreneur, as an engineer, as a scientist, as anybody, any human being in any endeavor, just seeing that and saying, I'm going to have that level of grit, passion, dedication is something that every human being can learn from, be inspired by, and sort of use that in their daily life. So when you do come across a failure in your life that you're not happy with, you don't give up, you get onwards, and you move on. And you try and do your better the next day. That is something that I think Elon Musk stands as an inspirational person to me. If you come across a setback or a failure, you just don't give up and sit and go, oh, I can't do it again. You get up the next day and you try and do a little bit better, and the next day you do a little bit better, and incrementally you get a little bit better every day. And guys like Elon Musk, I think. Um, Even Steve Jobs, if you work in sort of any kind of engineering discipline or technology, these are inspirational people, and history will remember them as inspirational people. Steve Jobs, whatever you say, he was like, not a good boss or this, that, and the other. Uh, just look at the iPhone. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
300.
only Steve Jobs. Only Steve Jobs. Apple was making iPods on the verge of bankruptcy. There was Microsoft, there's Cisco, there's Oracle, billion dollar companies. And yet
Yeah.
this guy is standing and saying, I'm going to just completely change how telephones work for everybody. I'm going to put a touchscreen. And I still remember when you first saw the iPhone come out and the touchscreen, everybody was just going just to slide that button, to open the iPhone. Do you remember that it
Yeah.
had this kind of like little fish from Finding Nemo kind of thing, fish on the initial wallpaper for the iPhone, and everybody just wanted to slide that button on the iPhone when it
Yeah.
first came out, because it's like, oh my God, I just can't believe that this is even possible. When the first iPhone came out, nobody could believe that you could actually slide a button. Now we just take it as given. Nobody even thinks twice about sliding a button. But
I don't
when
even
it
swipe
first
the
came,
button. I just look at it and it opens my phone. It's like you don't even
exactly, yeah,
swipe it.
Face ID now, yeah, but just having that kind of audacity of that thinking. And I think there was recently an academic said, oh, there's 40 patents and hundreds of academics have done all the work that went into making the iPhone that Steve Jobs did. Yeah, but he did it. There are lots of other people who had access to those papers, right? There are a lot of other engineers who had access to that. There are a lot of other companies with lots of money sloshing around. So why is it Steve Jobs who did it? There's something about him that he did it, right? He's an inspirational person in that regard. And same thing with Elon Musk. There are hundreds of entrepreneurs with more than 22 million to put into a Tesla, right?
Yeah,
There are people who made millions back in the day at Microsoft, early employees at Google. There are people, I think Google's first employees were 1.5 billion or something, right?
yeah.
There are hundreds of other people who had 22 million to put into and make a Tesla and change the entire car industry. Why is it Elon Musk doing it? There is something about these people, be it a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk, people hate, and they're not without their flaws. But let's look at it from a holistic perspective and say these guys deserve the credit for changing entire industries and bringing joy to the lives of people in a way that other people can't.
I completely agree, man. I think there's a big thing for it. Do you see a lot of people that you, as working as an entrepreneur and with the businesses you're building, change your thinking? I don't know how to ask this question, but like, has it changed your thinking from what it was in academia? Like, how does that translate with each other? Like when you meet people from academia compared to meeting business partners and some or whatever, like the partnerships you're trying to build that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think with business, I mean, I we have a great team. We have people, at races. We've got people who've got PhDs from Cambridge in neuroscience. We've got people who've got experience from Microsoft, from Inmarsat. We've got great data engineers, great scientists, great sort of overall cloud architects, business heads. With any kind of business venture, slightly different. I think with Erases, it's all about the customer
Got you.
and how do I make the customers' lives 1, 2, 3% better?
Mm,
I'm not going to change an entire industry like what Tesla is doing or like iPhone did. My job is I'm going to make people's lives a little bit better every day,
yeah.
just a little bit better every day. That's the goal for White Matter. That with a capture with White Matter, just make people's lives a little bit better every day. And the entire goal of the organization is how do I make my customer's life a little bit easier, a little bit better? That's it. And our
Mm,
end customer, our stakeholders includes employees in organizations, anybody who uses a capture system, which is pretty much anybody who has to go on the internet nowadays. How am I making their lives a little bit better? With with Tam, obviously we're speaking to MasterCard and trying to integrate into decentralized finance. We're speaking to um, sort of multiple other ventures. We're looking at self-driving. We're doing that work as well. Uh, we are looking at it from different angles and different perspectives, and we're doing sort of multiple different things. Um, and we're building an ecosystem around open source software development and a financial model. But at the end of the day, our job is to make industry's life easier and work as an interface. So for us building open source self-driving, that a company like a Mercedes or Audi or BMW can use, who can't afford their own self-driving programs because it's too expensive, and we say we can do it open source and we can do it in a sustainable way, or we can work with a Quad 9 on DNS blocking in the blockchain space because they're not specifically looking at DNS blocking in the blockchain space or cryptocurrency space. Our job is to say we can make these industry partners' lives a little bit better, and then companies are going to hold this cryptocurrency because we're going to become so industry critical that every company will want to work with us, be it an Airbus or a Mercedes or a BMW or a Tesla or a SpaceX. Everything from wanting to build control systems for space to self-driving cars to cybersecurity tooling to working with a Cisco or a Proofpoint. We want to basically be the go-to person for industry to come to and say, we need this particular piece of code which needs to be open source. We want to work with you. Can you put some developer hours? And we will, and then we'll get some sort of cryptocurrency model where companies start holding us that are working with us, especially as a short-term balance sheet asset. That those things become really important for us. So that's a kind of a B2B model almost, where we're trying to just basically make open source sustainable. That's the end goal of it.
Yeah,
That's a slightly different model because it's an enterprise solution. There are heavy things. We want to look at high performance computing as well, neural chips. We want to look at language processing units. We want to work with, we want to work on stuff which is basically industry critical. The research council is really made up of, researchers from Imperial College London, people with PhDs in maths, people with master's degrees in control systems, from ARM, from Shell, from Imperial College London. It's a very different model.
yeah,
It's a very different model. Whereas for Erases, it's about the customer. It's about
yeah.
the end customer. How am I making my customer's life a little bit easier? Do-
One simpler
Is
day.
is my product enjoyable to use? Is it an inconvenience for them in any way? So my whole point around making Erases is, or white matter is, it should not inconvenience you in any way while you're working. It's an app that runs in the background. You can open it, you can look at how stressed you were, you can look at how tired you were, you know when to take your next break, or if you should have taken a break, but it's not impeding or impinging in your work day in any way or shape or form.
Yeah,
That's the key thing for me, as an entrepreneur doing a B2C product. My customers' lives should be incrementally better. If that's 1%, 2%, 5%, but it needs to be incrementally better every single day because of what I'm doing as a B2B, a B2C sort of company. On a B2B scale, again, it needs to be something as a product that's usable. So if you're building self-driving, even if you write a little bit of code on self-driving, it must be implemented at a BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi. If you're writing even a little bit of code on sort of blockchain DNS blocking, that needs to be used by Quad 9. Okay, if you're doing something on, I don't know, digital identities, decentralized digital identities, and we build an L1 blockchain, we better work with IBM and we better work with the European Union Digital Passport Initiative and get those
yeah,
contracts, right? If you're building some kind of AI agentic framework to check and verify malicious AI agents, it better be used by people making AI agents like a ChatGPT or a DeepSeek to verify themselves using our platform. Whatever we make has to be put into use by other company partners in some way or form. That is the most important thing in what I'm doing. It needs to be used, it needs to be usable, and it needs to be something that people use on a regular basis.
yeah. They have to be able to use it, see the feedback loops, and be able to actually help them, which is what I try and do every day. Just try and be 1% better every single day. I think it's a great rule of life to be able to
Yeah,
do.
I think so too. And also remember, like for me as well, I mean, I've gone through my own challenges in life, like everybody. Nobody's going to go through life
Mm.
unscathed. I don't think any person, I've never heard of one person who said, I've had a very smooth journey. I've never had any problems in my life. It just doesn't happen to any human being. And I think that idea that you have that every day is going to be rosy, that's not going to happen. You need grit, you need determination. You are going to go through suffering. Bad things are going to happen. That's just a part of the game. Accept it, and also accept some things you're going to fall off the cliff. So there have been times where I'm doing really well and I'm on cloud nine and I feel amazing. I mean, when I saw ETH Zurich publish papers on my work, I was just like, oh my God, this is just
Yeah,
amazing. I came up with this in 2015. I worked with the head of neuroscience at Harvard and I came up with it. And now there's universities publishing it saying typing patterns that are better predictor of stress levels than heart rate monitors. Like what a great confidence boost to see. It's
yeah,
even more accurate than a heart rate monitor. Um, but at the same time, there have been times where I'm not doing really well, and
yeah,
the world seems to be closing in. I feel like I'm falling off a cliff, and there are times where I haven't done really well at all in anything. I haven't hit my daily goals in anything, be it in fitness, be it in work, be it in my personal relationships with my children. I'm not hitting personal best in anything, right? Those days are okay as well.
yeah.
Those days are okay as well. It's okay to fail sometimes. It's okay not to be 100% best.
Failing's good, man. Failing. I don't think people embrace failing enough. Like when you fail something, like it's in the book Personal Power by Tony Robbins, which is a book that stuck with me. It's like one of the first books I read in like 2019, 2018. And it's people that fail never really look at it as fail. They learn it as lessons. And like you're saying, it's, suck it up. Like they're going to happen. And they make the winning so much more powerful and so much more better. And I'm not someone that's like, like I've had a very good life, but, you can't compare someone's problems to someone else's problems because it's impossible to do. But it is a really, I wish people were much more harder on that at the moment. Like to be like failing isn't a bad thing. Like get back up and do it again. Like go again.
Exactly, and accept that some days are going to be better than others, and some days you're going to do better than others, and don't expect like every day yourself to be the best version of yourself, because that's
Yeah,
just not going to happen. Maybe
yeah,
there are some people, I know there are some people who've sort of built themselves into a groove where they're following patterns every day and they're doing the right things every day. Yeah, I mean, good for them. I'm not one of them. There are some days where I'm really, really good and I'm doing everything amazing.
yeah,
I'm doing everything that I plan to do. And there are some days where I feel like doing it, but I'm not doing everything that I wanted to do. I scrape by and I do a little bit better, but it's not
yeah.
what I wanted to do that day. That's okay as well. Like, accept that those days will exist. You're never going to be at your best every single day, and this is the
1,000%.
unrealistic thing. A lot of social media also teaches people like everybody needs to look like Cristiano Ronaldo and wake up and do your push-ups and sit in the sun and drink your supplements and stuff. Man, just chill out a little bit. He's a professional athlete. He gets paid millions of pounds a year to be a professional athlete. It's his job to take care of your health. If you've gone to the gym 1 hour a day, that's good enough.
Yeah,
That's good enough,
that's a good
right?
start.
Because you might be a dad with two kids and you need to take care of business, and it's okay. And that's okay as well. Like, just have that kind of just have that kind of ability to say, okay, that's okay as well. Like, and we need to be sort of as a society sort of more kind to that kind of normalcy where everything is now blown up. If you
Mm.
need to be an entrepreneur, you better be the next Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. Or if you're into fitness, you better look like Cristiano Ronaldo. Everything is blown up, but it's okay to go 1 hour to the gym 3 times a week, and it's okay to be an entrepreneur who's making people's lives a little bit incrementally better. Everybody doesn't need to be that, because these personalities also have their own flaws. Steve Jobs was a workaholic for a reason, right?
Yeah,
His world was obsessed with work, whereas not everybody wants that. Some people want a normal family and a normal life.
yeah. And I think a lot of the things, a lot of the experiences, I mean, money and possessions and things, as nice as they are, like I like them, but you can't take any of them with you. And I'd much rather the experiences. Like it's a big thing of mine this year, Ibrahim, to go to a lot more live events, and whether that's comedy shows or whether that's
Yes.
uh, dramas or whether that whatever. Like it's whether it's going for a walk with a friend in a different area or going to a different country. Like trying to do that as much as I can because meeting new people, like how I met you, it really changes your perspective on how the world works, on how a technology works, on how to treat other people. And I feel people can, like you said, get trapped into this scrolling loop of just watching shit that's not
Yeah,
real, man.
yeah.
It's like that's not an average but like and you're only seeing the best parts that they want you to see. Like catch them when they wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and then just
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's
it's a distorted reality, but unfortunately, it happens to people where women have self-image issues because of this, or men have this incredible drive for social
yeah.
status because,
Oh,
if you if you're a mountain gorilla, you're competing with the silverback. If you're living in a society back in the day, you're probably competing with people who live in your apartment complex or in your village or something. Now, if you're a footballer, you're competing with Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. If you're an entrepreneur, you're competing with Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and Mark Bainoff and whoever
yeah,
else. If you're a scientist, you better win the Nobel Prize. Otherwise, what's the point of doing science? Everything is blown out of proportion and you stop enjoying it. So, like, for me, I don't need to do a PhD,
yeah,
right? I'm pretty happy with my cybersecurity qualification and working and stuff, and I can keep working happily. I have to remind myself that the only reason I'm doing a PhD, and I love running the businesses and stuff, the reason I started working on this tech, which has become white matter, is because I was deeply passionate about this. I was working in an open plan office. I was multitasking. I know I was not being productive. I hate getting interrupted while I'm working in an open plan office. And I noticed I could do something a little bit here. So I did it. And same thing with my PhD. I started reading books on maths and I noticed, oh, there's a little bit of pattern here that I can make a little bit of a dent on. And I'm doing a PhD only for the pleasure of it.
yeah,
If I did not get a PhD at the end of if it, I'll still be happy because, and I have to remind myself that because if I become very serious about it and I think, oh my God, my PhD, my PhD, my PhD, then I won't enjoy the process. It's a part-time PhD that's going to be 6 years. I'm going to spend 6 years of my life sitting in a
yeah,
library in somewhere forum, spending weekends studying something. If I don't enjoy it, it's not going to be worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing, like you said, like you find what you enjoy. Some people like horse riding, some people like going to concerts. I like doing a PhD. That's why I'm doing it. I like reading. I'm a complete geek. That's like, you know, and sort of my partner or my friends are like, man, do you have anything else? Like, I read this book, kind of thing. This is the last book I read, but like I enjoy it. I don't mind doing that. I'm a loner. I like libraries. I like sitting and reading, and I find my joy in that. So and that's like that's okay. Like everybody should be okay with their own individual differences and where they find bliss in life.
Yeah, 100%. Well said. Well said. I think it's really important to have something that you care about and have passion for. Like I was saying to Chris, like in AI at the moment, so we're in the media scene, as you know. There's a lot of people that are kind of winging it and don't really seem properly committed. And I wonder how many of them will be around in like. And I don't know if you've noticed these trends as well, Ibrahim, but it's quite seems to be quite common across media where you'll get people come in and kind of do a quick cash grab almost and get interested in the topic when you can tell they've really got no enthusiasm or passion for the topics they're talking about. And it does make me think like I wonder why. I don't know how it makes me think about it, but it makes me kind of sad and a bit annoyed, I guess, because you see people that generally care and generally have a passion, and they're going up against people that are in it just to treat it as like a business almost, and it's weird. I don't know how I feel about it. Like they should, like I'm all for it in a way, but in other ways it's like, am I really going to have a fun conversation with you? Probably not. Like I've actually realized you don't actually know that much, which is fine on the topic that you're saying you're passionate about. Like it's very weird.
I think eventually it distills through.
Yes.
Eventually it distills through. White matter is something I started working on in 2015. The first kind of confidence I had is when Jeff Lichman spoke to me and he agreed with me and the business problem as well as the solution and what I'm doing. And Jeff Lichman is, I have
He's
great
at Harvard.
respect and regard for him. He's the head of
Harvard,
neuroscience
right?
at Harvard. Yeah, he runs the Lichman lab at Harvard. And then I spoke to Sophie Leroy, who's written the paper on attention residue. I'm still in touch with Sophie Leroy. So she did a lot of the work as part of her PhD program. And I spoke to Matthew Liberman. I spoke to Jeffrey Schwartz. So I spoke to 3 or 4 professors who agreed with what I was doing, both the business problem and the solution. Then I moved on to sort of starting building it, and I went through multiple failures, spits, starts, stops. I was working in finance at the time, so I had to teach myself programming from scratch. So I learned C Sharp and WPF from scratch and created the first prototype. I didn't have the right business partner. Sometimes I didn't have the management experience to choose the right team. Splits, splutter, starts till the right team comes through. Everything gets executed like clockwork. It's released on the NVIDIA Inception program. That took 2015 to 2025. It's taken 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And that's 10 years, a lot of sorrow on my end, a lot of risk on my end, a lot of financial investment on my end that was unsung. And that's why it's the first product in the market and nothing else like this exists.
Yeah.
And sometimes even some of my sort of co-founders are like, "Oh, are we the right people to do it?" And maybe there are other companies who can do this. And what if you don't get more traction after the early traction? And I have to also bring my team back and say, "Well, look, we're not a games company. We're not making Candy Crush, right? We're
Yeah.
not making Super Mario. It's an occupational health tool for the workplace that makes people's life 2-3% better. Are you making people's lives better? Yes. Is there a use case? Yes. Will it help people? Yes. Will it reduce the burden on the NHS? Yes, we're doing predictive medicine, but we're not building a lab in Berlin or San Francisco saying go into a booth and we'll do a full body scan and give you supplements and stuff. No, it's just you're stressed, do a 5-minute box breathing exercise like Navy SEALs do, and your blood cortisol levels will go down. It's very
Yeah.
simple, right? So if you download White Matter, it's available free for a 3-month trial. If you get stressed, it will activate box breathing automatically. And it'll take you
Wow.
through the motions of doing box breathing. So we can clock when you're stressed and it'll automatically tell you when to box breathe. It's a very simple tool when you think about it,
Yeah.
but it's going to help you in the long run. And you might not see it in the first day, you might not see it in the second day, but after 3 months, you'll feel slightly better when you're at work. After two
Dude, I
years,
need to
you'll
try
feel
this
even
out.
better.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
need to
you
try
can.
it out. I'm not trying. Yeah, if I can get a go on it, I'd love to see. Like, I know you've spoke to me about it before, but I'd really love to see how that changes. I like to think I'm quite in good shape. Like, I go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, and try and keep my posture good. Try and do walks and everything. But those kind of, and I do a breathing exercise, like Wim Hof breathing exercise, which
Oh
I
yeah.
got my parents doing, and it's for a starter, it's quite. It's I do a morning meditation as well. Depending, like I can't always fit it in. Well, I can technically fit it in. Like I have the same amount of time as everyone else, but I sometimes get distracted in the mornings. Um, yeah, those things are super helpful. So I'd love to test out.
Yeah, absolutely, you should. And I think like Wim Hof, I know about Wim Hof, and I know about there's a lot of yoga. I come from India, so there's a lot of yoga stuff. We had to choose box breathing. It's used by Navy SEALs, and there's a lot of papers, and it's very structured. So it's kind of like you inhale two, and then you exhale two, and then you inhale two, and then you exhale two. So it's on a second count, and it goes through the counter, and it's very systematic.
Yeah.
We can't go into any kind of Buddhist philosophy and stuff in the workplace. We have to be very buttoned down.
Start getting chimes in your head like, and now do this.
Yeah, it's not headspace. It's not even headspace. It's
Now
it's
picture
it's an
yourself on the beach.
yeah, exactly. We can't even do headspace stuff where we're telling you to think of yourself on the beach. No, we can tell you to do what Navy SEALs are doing, and if it's good enough for a Navy SEAL, it's good enough for anybody because they are the elite of the elites. I think even Olympic athletes will probably shudder around Navy SEALs in terms of just their stamina and strength and their ability to do stuff. So, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for everybody else in the workplace. And it's just very simple. It's very buttoned down. There's nothing kind of like fanciful or philosophical about it. It's just you do a few deep breaths and your blood cortisol levels, which is the main stress hormone, will go down. And the work of Hans Selye in the 1930s, he came up with this kind of he stress was used as something in physics to look at stress, how materials behave under stress. He brought this into biology to say if you put an organism under chronic stress, this will happen. So that's and we are now doing it. So that kind of just the ability to do that, and just the ability to sort of create that occupational health tool for me. I feel so proud of it. I feel so happy that I'm doing it. I know there are 1 billion people working on a computer every day. I know the NHS is creaking. I know healthcare systems around the world is creaking. People are going through diabetes, they're going through cancer, and all of this gets caught at the late stage 4. And a lot of that can be arrested earlier on in the process if you just take a few deep breaths, right? Or if you're noticing you're really stressed and you get up from your desk for 5 minutes. And just having that little extra support for everybody while they're working on a computer 9 to 5, and we're all busy and we're all working overtime, and everybody's really, doing their best. Just having the little bit of extra support during the workday, I think will really help everybody. And that incremental improvement to everybody's life, I'm really proud of. It's not the next iPhone, it's not a Tesla, but it's going to make your life a little bit better. And I'm really proud of that we're making people's lives a little bit better.
Dude, you're probably keeping people, longevity of people's health as well, like the importance of breathing, like making sure there's enough oxygen in your body. It's incredible how many people don't breathe enough and like oxygenate their body enough. I remember I went to go see someone, they were like, you're breathing at like nearly, I think it was something low, like 70% capacity or 80% capacity. I can't remember exactly how they worded it to me. Obviously, I wasn't like, I was still very high oxygenated, but they were like, why are you not breathing properly? Like, properly breathing in through your gut and breathing in through your stomach and these deep breaths. And like, it's fascinating. It's why when people do, and speaking from personal experience, when they do like breathing exercises, they get head rush because their body's like, whoa, what the fuck is this? Like, it's like that's what you're supposed to be at most of the day. Like if you're properly training, and it's like when you look at professional athletes, like the amount of work they do for like recovery, yoga, ice baths, all these things to keep their respiratory system like inflation low. You think like how much weight would we? And I don't know this stat, Ibrahim. I'm purely assuming, but like the amount of weight if people just decided to do a little bit more exercise a day or do what your tool is helping them do, which is just lower that stress by 1% a day or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's really important. And, we are doing it, and we're really happy that we're doing it. We're really proud of this occupational health. Obviously, I take my health seriously. I've gone through journeys where I've run marathons. I've gone through times where I haven't eaten that healthily and or taken care of my health, and I've gone through my ups and downs. I'm now trying to stabilize more and sort of take care of my health. And I think the sort of a general building a tool like this into the workplace also makes people much more conscious about their health in their general lives, because right now it's I have to vote my own money to get an Apple Watch, or I have to vote my own money to go to the gym, or I have to vote my own money to watch a YouTube video or buy my own supplements, be it a vitamin D or whatever, vitamin C, or whatever you want to do, ice baths or go to the sauna. I have to do it voluntarily. Whereas
Yeah,
now it's going to be integrated into the workplace for everybody. So on a general level, people are going to be much more conscious about their health as well, because it's going to become a workplace status quo tool.
yeah, yeah. It's really important. Do you read like you're mentioning earlier? Do you read a lot of things that are academia and technology focused, or do you read like literature as well and things that are more like self help books or like fictional? What do you kind of read?
Yes, I think like it's good. I think everybody has a different journey. So my dad, I grew up in India. I grew up in Bombay, which is now Mumbai. My dad comes from a very academic family. Sort of 3 or 4 generations. They're all very academic. My dad has 2 degrees, one in maths, one in law, and he's got multiple banking qualifications and stuff. So he's also very academic. He used to always get sort of full marks in school and stuff. And I grew up reading Enid Blyton's books. So I grew up reading a lot of literature. My dad used to get me these tell me why books, which are these kind of science books, which are little nuggets of why something happened. So I grew up on a kind of mixed diet of science and literature,
Got you.
um, and obviously the normal schoolwork. And then in my early teens, I started reading a lot of literature. So I would read, I read a lot of sort of uh, fiction, world history, and I think now looking back, it's good because I was academic in college. I went to the LSE, obviously. I got a degree. I started working in the oil and gas industry. So I was working, but my early youth was more science fiction, literature, philosophy as well, a little bit. And then I've kind of narrowed down now into pure academia, pure tech, pure work related programming, science, mathematics, cryptography, encryption, cybersecurity. Even looking at health tech to looking at how DNA mutations work. I looked at point mutations of genes recently. Now it's more narrowed down. But I look at it very positively because that experience that I've had initially of fiction, history, literature. I remember reading The Life of Pi at university. It was a mind-blowing book, A Man and a Tiger on a Boat, right?
Great.
That that allows me to be very creative in science.
Yeah,
That allows me to be very creative even in mathematics.
yeah,
uh, Now it's very buttoned down. Now it's very step by step. Everything needs to be step by step as a programmer. Everything needs to be step by step when you're writing a master's dissertation. Everything needs to be step by step when you need to writing a journal article, or when you're writing code, or when you're working on a customer product acquisition strategy, or a social media strategy, or emailing venture capital to raise funds for your startup, or you're working with a MasterCard or an IBM,
yeah,
or you're going to Airbus for Project Dragonfly. Everything is very buttoned down.
yeah,
But that initial experience gives me that creative juice to be able to look at ideas, even in science and mathematics and technology and engineering, and be a little bit cheeky because
yeah,
I've had my mind stretched like an elastic band with fiction and literature and all of that. Now it's funneled down into very narrow streams. But initial experience was as kind of a broad diet of a lot of different things in literature. And I'm very thankful. I think a lot of people who are scientists who've kind of stuck to science, throughout their lives, they have a much more structured approach than me. I can be a
yeah,
little bit cheeky with the way I approach tech or the way I approach science, because I'm like, maybe I can find this little bit of angle from this side or a little bit of angle from this side, because I'm always trying to think, you know, how many different variants of the same thing can I make,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
How many different ways can I write code for the same thing? How can I optimize this? And when you've grown up with fiction or literature and stuff, because literature is such a flight of fancy, anything can happen in literature, right? Anything can happen in a novel, right? A man can be on a boat stranded in the middle of nowhere, and that's okay. That literature is okay. When you have that thing, you look at science as anything can happen,
yeah. I
right?
love
I
that's
think
a
in 2015 I was discussing with a friend, like I was like, I think you can harness electricity from waves, and he was like, you're just like some kind of philosopher, like literature guy. You should be a history major. What do you mean you can harness electricity from waves? Now they're harnessing electricity from waves. They're actually doing
yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like the ideas that you can get from fiction that can turn into real kind of, or just like you're saying, like unlock the art of possible and the art of like what you're actually interested in. Like I think I became interested because I started reading. Like I really was a boring person before I started reading books, and just whether that was audiobooks and mainly reading, and it was really hard for me to read the first few. But it just makes you think like I can go in and learn from some of the most incredible thinkers, like either like creatively in industries I'd never go in, like things that I don't really have much interest in, like personally, but I've got a curiosity about, I guess. Like I want to
Yeah,
understand the basics,
yeah,
and it's all just there for like £5 a book. Like
yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah, absolutely. And I think like if you're a scientist, read literature, read fiction.
Yeah,
If you're if you're a, and vice versa, if you're a literary artist and if you write novels, read some science papers. You know,
yeah,
expose yourself to something that's completely diagrammatically opposite to what you stand for or what you consider to be your passion and your work. And um, and that gives you a different perspective. So now I just don't have time. I have to be very focused. I have to be laser focused. I've got commitments. I've got work. I'm working full time between contracts. I'm running two businesses. I've got two more ideas for two different things which I don't have time for. I started this initiative called the STEM University. I taught 20,000 students on Udemy for Python programming to everything, and I wanted to take that forward. I just don't have time. I have to focus on TAM and Erases. And I made the world's first fully 3D printed razor as well. So I was 3D printing for a while, and I wanted to take that forward and have the kind of like a brand like Shin and stuff,
I remember you
and have
showing me.
3D printing.
I think you WhatsApped me as you were doing it, and I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I made it, and it was a great creative process to work with a CAD designer and say, for me, it was a challenge. Like, can I make a practical razor that is usable every day? It was an intellectual challenge. Can I make a practical razor that's usable every day, that's a little bit better than what Gillette and all these other companies have, and actually make it work with a CAD designer? So I worked with a CAD designer. I put my own on me, I made it, and I use it every day, and I can send you a copy so you can use it. And I wanted to take it forward, but I realized like to create this kind of a fashion brand,
Yeah,
to get a contract with Boots or to have an online shop and to do eBay and stuff, it takes a lot of time, and I just don't have that time right now. So maybe when Tom becomes the next Bitcoin worth 2 trillion, and when Erases is the next Salesforce, I will probably have some time to invest and take that forward.
yeah,
But it was an incredible creative process to make the world's first 3D printed razor. I use it every day, right? So when I need to shave, I still use my razor. And I can definitely get one made. I have the 3D printed CAD designs. I can get one made and I can send it to you. So you can use it every day as well. And it's just nice that it also, like, for as an entrepreneur, for me, there are so many different variables that happen. Like when you're
yeah,
making a razor, then it needs to be practical. It needs to be cheap. It needs to be a little bit better than what Gillette or Harry's or Dollar Shave Club have in the market. It needs to be unique. I can't just copy a four-blade razor and make something,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It needs to be a new piece of product, completely new, completely different from anything in the market. It needs to be practical. So what I did is, the safety blades that your grandfather used.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The kind of safety
No,
razors back in the day. The kind of like topaz and 7 o'clock blades and stuff that you get. The kind of like,
what,
how do
when
you call it?
you split it
The
open?
safety razors. No,
Yeah,
no, no. The safety razors, where
right.
you sort of have three pieces and you open it and you put a blade in the middle and you close it. Do you remember? Probably 50 years ago, you had these safety razors. But anyways, you can get these blades for very cheap on Amazon. You can get like 100 blades for £7,
Yeah,
right? So look up what a safety razor is online, right? You
yeah,
can get 100 blades for like £7, right? And um, they clog less. Yeah. And they're better for your skin because it doesn't have ingrown hairs. And I said, well, I'm going to make a 3D printed safety razor, but I'm going to make it slightly different than everything else. I'm going to make it a little bit better. So I spent a lot of time doing CAD design. It's got a little blade tray so the hair falls off, and the handle is made of TPU plastic, so it's slightly flexible on your skin, and that kind of mimics the Gillette flex that you get when you put it on your skin. And it works really amazingly. I can probably still sell it on eBay. I just don't have the time for it because I'm working on
yeah,
two different quite important things. But at some point, when I have enough time and money and mental space and breathing space, I will probably start selling it on eBay and make an online shop and hire somebody to kind of make it into a company and run it. But the creative process was amazing. Just the ability that I can 3D print, design it with a CAD designer, go through the prototypes, go through the iterations, go through the failures. The initial prototypes weren't that great. Get it done, get it made, and I use it every day. And that's proof for me that I can make a product from scratch that
yeah,
I consider in some way or form better than what Gillette, Harry's, Dollar Shave Club has in the market.
Yeah.
right? And just go through that. That is very important. That is very important for you as an entrepreneur, because you're always charting new territories and new paths, and you need to have your thinking very clear, because there are hundreds of variables. It needs to be cheaper, it needs to be better, it needs to solve a problem that customers have that is not in the market, it needs to be practical. I need to be able to develop this and productionize this at scale. When you're in academia, you can just take an idea and, oh, here's the idea, here's the answer for it, the
Yeah.
problem, right? When you're working as an employee, this is what your boss gives you, this is the solution. When you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, it's not so simple.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
got
so
to
simple,
I
because
can speak to that.
one of those things don't work
Mm.
and you've sunk a lot of money into it, right?
Yeah.
So
And energy as well.
yeah, so with the razor, I did all of it, great, and I can probably still create an online shop and get away with it, and I probably should, and I will at some point, because there are a lot of other there's like 3D printed shoes and stuff, there's a lot of 3D printed stuff coming up. But initially I was like, okay, I don't have time for this right now, because Erasis is working and is taking off, and Tam, I've got a great team around me working on Influencer. I don't have time. But yes, can I get it done? That tick mark, that intellectual tick mark for myself is more important. For me, it's more important to challenge myself and check my thinking in the real world and see what I'm doing, what I'm coming up with, whether it's a 3D printed razor or Erases white matter or a thumb, is on the right lines, is correct, and every little tick mark gives you so much confidence. When you see Merit Systems copying you and raising 10 million from Enrique and Horowitz to
Yeah.
create a financial model for open source software developers, it gives you a lot of confidence. When you see White Matter, ETH, Zurich publishing papers on the same topic, saying typing patterns are a better predictor of stress levels than heart rate monitors, it gives you a lot of confidence. We can have a 3D printed razor that you're using and your friends and family are using, and they're all saying it's actually quite nice. That gives you a lot of confidence. It's
Yeah.
just to check and verify your thinking and push yourself about whatever you're passionate about in life, and get that external feedback. That's really important. I think for like a guy like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, I think for them, more than the money and the status and the fame they get, just seeing a Tesla car on the street, just seeing earpods on the street, just seeing people use an iPhone or a MacBook. For a guy like Steve Jobs, I imagine that is the biggest prize. For me, the biggest prize will be seeing Erases White Matter in all organizations around the UK,
Yeah.
right?
Using it
And
day in.
using it, that is the real price. So yes, the money and everything else would be great, because you sunk a lot of time and effort into it. But just like as an entrepreneur, as a scientist, as an academic, just seeing your brainchild being used in real life by hundreds, millions, billions of people, that I think you can't put a price tag on that. And that's, I think, what we're all chasing as entrepreneurs, just seeing what you're making being used in real life. For me, that's very important, especially for B2C products. For B2B products, if you're making a Rolls-Royce jet engine or a GE, yeah, in a way you still are. How many planes are flying every day? How many flights? That's all
Yeah.
powered by a Rolls-Royce jet engine or a GE jet engine. And if you're an engineer at Rolls-Royce designing the next jet engine, you must be very proud of yourself that I did something that is being used by millions and millions of people every day for every flight.
Brilliantly said, man. Brilliantly said. It's a lot of great. I wasn't aware. Like I know I spoke to you a few times, but when you've just explained it, like you just did, like the amount of things you're working on, it's really awesome to hear what you've got building and what you've got coming. And what's next? What's the kind of between now and when we next talk? What's kind of next hopes or ideas or things you're looking forward to over the next few weeks, maybe 2025, and what you're. I wouldn't like to say what you predict, but what are you hoping to see, or what are you working towards? What
Sure.
kind
So
of
I
thing?
think for White Matters, we are now working with sort of reseller partners, other corporate B2B partners, reseller partners to disseminate White Matter into the workplace. We've approached the Horizon program. We're speaking to them actively to try and sort of work with Dame Carol Black, who's I think she's running the occupational health initiative in the UK. So we're trying to work with governments to try and get White Matter in the workplace, because we are the only company that is helping employees kind of stay in line with occupational health guidelines. So we're sort of actively sort of pushing that, focusing on more B2B relationships, coming up with new products for Erases. So we've released our capture alternative for Cloudflare Turnstile, every company can now use it and have bot detection and DDoS protection using our product. We would be looking to roll out new products. But right now, I think for 2025, the focus is on execution, to getting those B2B relationships going, to have white matter at every organization in the UK, in Europe, in the US, in Canada, in India. Most developed countries have occupational health guidelines. Every employee needs to adhere to them, and we're the company doing it. So we want to sort of really push the execution for white matter in the B2B workspace. That's the main goal. For Tham, we're speaking to MasterCard for the crypto credentials program. We're speaking to KuCoin, Hotcoin, Mexi, Gate.io. More people are joining the research council, quite high up in finance and industry and academia. And then execute our self-driving program, execute more cybersecurity tooling that we're working with. We recently have a very fantastic person join from American Express, the research council, who is a cybersecurity expert, works with law enforcement. So we're pushing the kind of Quad 9 work with them, and we're looking to work with Chainalysis, Cloudflare, SumSub, different industry partners to make the internet more secure. Really, cybersecurity is one of the main three pillars of Tham. So cybersecurity is AI, and then self-driving. For Tham, we'll be looking at different types of AI agent models, so not the current LLMs. We're looking at different types of artificial intelligence. So we want to roll out our own AI agents. We have a decentralized digital identity program. So we're looking to work with IBM and work on possibly integrating some of IBM technology and working with European digital passport initiatives. So that's in the pipelines. We're also looking at verifying AI agents, so we can do a code check for malicious code on AI agents. So as AI agents become more mainstream, we will do some kind of licensing program where they buy licenses from us. So every AI agent is in some way or form verified before they get installed on your computer using our licensing program. And then, there are sort of few other things. We're doing something on Twitter. We're starting something on Twitter recently for Tham, which is a price prediction. What are the top 10 cryptocurrencies? What are the prices today and what will be the prices tomorrow? So just showing our machine learning capabilities, just doing price predictions. Awesome. So I think, again, sort of some things are very advanced, some things are very basic, but the whole goal is, again, to make the internet safer, to make people's lives better, to help our industry partners in every way, be it a Cloudflare or a Chainalysis or a Quad 9. Hopefully we at some point work with Airbus and Mercedes and BMW and Audi to help every organization that we're working with make their lives a little bit better. And obviously that, allows us to then go to a Norwegian sovereign wealth fund or a Grayscale or a Qatari investment authority and say, you really should be holding Tham as a short-term liquid asset in your book.
Wow. Well, I'm excited for you, man. I mean, I'm always a big fan of what you're building. You reached out to me when I was starting the AI Journal, and you've always shown me a lot of help and a lot of inspiring words. So I really appreciate you coming on, Ibrahim. Where can people find you? Obviously, you got your LinkedIn. Anywhere else people should be looking for you or connecting with you or seeing your work?
You can contact me on LinkedIn. Ideally, I think my number is there as well on the AI Journal page. So definitely look out for me on the AI Journal as I publish more articles on the AI Journal. So I think AI Journal definitely. Email me. You can email me, or I think LinkedIn is probably the best place. And if you're a deepfake, don't contact me on LinkedIn.
That's a brilliant way to put it. Ibrahim, I really appreciate you coming on. We've been going over 2 hours, and I could talk to you for hours. So the next time you come on, I want to speak to the other things you're mentioning, what you're doing on Twitter, and how things are going. And excited to see what's next. But thank you for coming on today, Ibrahim.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye bye.